Okay,
Yeah.
now it is. Now it's now.
Okay. Well, mine said it was time. So I opened the pub. Anyway, so yeah, the editor was they had a listing. They said if you have any questions, email the editor. They said that you probably shouldn't go, you know, to any real deep cut because they want an audience. So you want to go with stuff that people are going to know. And I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Whatever. I think it increases the competition on who can get in because I think you're going to have several stories based off of the same songs, and they're only doing one story per song. So in my brain, I'm thinking, all right, you said Kiss. I know Rush opened for Kiss. And I know there are parts. I realize that Rush is considered the Godfathers of Prague, but they got a lot of songs that are pretty heavy. And
It's
one of
funny you said Rush opened for Kiss. I'm just have to interject this because I literally was just talking about the amount of bands that Kiss has given their start to.
oh yeah,
And it's not only Rush, I mean, it's like Iron Maiden,
Van
Judas
Halen.
Priest, Sammy Hagar, there's a whole bunch of them.
Oh, I know. And but whatever. And there's a song by Rush called Double Agent, which is one of my favorites, and it's pretty hard. It's got a nice little story already with it. I think that might have been the hardest part would be to stay away from not to be too much just a retelling of the song. It's kind of vague. I don't know if you know it, but so it's the guy wrestles with some decision all night long. So all you really have to do is I think figure out what dark, twisted thing that decision is, and then write your story. But I emailed the
One more
editor.
time.
Huh?
One more time. I was answering a question.
Oh, well. So the song "Double Agent" has it never says what the decision is, but the guy wrestles with it all night long, and then it finally comes to a decision at the end in the morning. That's really all the song is. But it's got these lyrics about the case had been tried by the demons inside and all this stuff. I mean, it's got a nice dark tone. So I
Yeah, it
thought,
said demon, so it's metal, right?
but
No, I'm just kidding, dude. Go ahead.
so, but I emailed the editor. Editor got back to me. He's like, "Nah, they're too prog rock." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Because in my mind, I'm thinking, like, my thought was, Rush fans are pretty loyal. If they know it's based off of something, I think Rush fans will turn out. But
So,
I also know that Rush gets looked down on. So
I guess I kind of missed part of that, the whole gist of that. So, I caught I told you I was talking to somebody else too at the
I
same
know
time, so
you're fine.
it's hard, especially when the talking to the other person is typing.
Oh yeah.
Um, so you're basically talking about writing stories about song lyrics or something.
Yeah, you're supposed to pick a song and then write a story based on it.
But it has to be a metal song.
That's what they say, but again, I think they even listed like Corn as heavy metal. I'm like, no, they're not. They're new metal. And
Yeah, but corn's kind of mixed in there.
I
It,
get it. That's what I mean. Why when you get up near the boundaries, it
it's
becomes
it's really weird because when uh, Rush, for instance, and I'm sticking up for Rush here.
okay.
Uh, ask Metallica who their favorite bands are. Rush,
What?
Faith No More. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that they mentioned. Or used to mention. Like I guess it changes with time, but because Rush isn't dead out metal, it's a little bit of everything, you know.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
I've known at least 2 or 3 Rush songs that have gone from double bass heavy metal to reggae, or
Yeah.
Rush is everything, uh, and that's kind of like Faith No More. They were considered like alternative, but the riffs are metal. The singing style in metal is there's no guarantee what a singing style is going to be in metal. You can go everything from people that are singing like real singing to growling to mixing, so it's like dry vocals or whatever. Everything's good. Everything goes. The lines between metal and hard rock blur so much that screamo is heavy metal with white rock lyrics. It's like they're love songs and whatever, but they're just singing it like metal.
Right.
Just weird. What's
Well,
what's Van Halen? Is it rock, metal, progressive?
Oh,
You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know.
Those are bands that are really hard to classify because they reach out in all directions.
I'd probably say Van Halen's hard rock. Of course, I say the same thing about Kiss.
Right.
So,
Well, Kiss has had a few songs that are definitely early metal,
yeah, okay.
but for the most part, their lyrics are vapid. They're sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's all about good times. Uh, I don't think it's the same with Rush. Rush is a much deeper lyrics. It's like Dream Theater.
Right.
Dream Theater is progressive, but it's progressive metal.
Yeah.
And like, what metal categories are acceptable? Because if Rush isn't acceptable, then is Dream Theater? Dream Theater should be,
Right. Well, in the grand scheme of things, I would say I'm glad I reached out to the editor first.
Right.
It's like, man, if you got, why not? So, it's that's like I posted that link. I think I posted it in Slack for they're taking the pitches for Lone Wolf books, and I thought, oh, that's way cooler than spending all your time writing the thing and then not having it get chosen. So, I don't know.
So, wait a minute. They're taking pictures. It's short stories that you're writing, correct?
I don't remember on the Lone Wolf one or not. I don't remember what it was. I just thought it was cool because I always liked those books. So.
So it's been a crazy couple of days.
A little bit. Oh yeah, like I'm on.
What happened with you?
I don't know. Saturday night I was up pretty late. Like I was up till probably 1 or 2 because I was playing video games with my boy because it's spring break and why not?
Right.
And I was
No
up.
judgment here.
I was up before 7 because every time I took a breath, it hurt, and it hurt. I mean, my whole back was hurt, like with every breath.
That is not good.
And so finally, like I went downstairs, and my wife was pissed because I went downstairs because I wanted a chair. I wanted something with a nice back. That might help. And I took a nap. I mean, I watched TV hoping it would get better, and it just wouldn't get better. So finally, she's like, why don't we just go to urgent care? It's like, all right, fine. And then on the way there, she's like, yeah, I'm lying. We're just going to go to the ER. And I couldn't really do anything about it. And we get there, and, they ask, why are you here? I'm like, well, I can't, I'm having a very hard time. It wasn't that I wasn't getting oxygen. It was more like if I took a very deep breath, it would hurt. And so then I would start hyperventilating. And then I wasn't breathing because of just this terrible cycle.
That sounds like the sickness I had just before the bronchial shit.
Oh, well, fun. So they did a couple x-rays. They're like, well, it's not pneumonia, so we're just going to give you some steroids and some breathing treatments. And like, I already have a nebulizer at home because I'm an asthmatic. So, I just got some more medicine for it. And just as we were about ready to leave, the woman in charge was like, all right, I got some bad news. She's like, you have a heart aneurysm? I was like, yeah. Like, I've had it for years. And she's like, well, next time you might want to lead with that. I'm like, you asked why I was here. I'm breathing, not heart.
As opposed to,
yeah, I mean,
what did you think I was doing?
Yeah, I said what I was there for. I was having a hard time breathing. Nobody asked about my heart, and quite frankly, I didn't think about it. But whatever. So then they had to do a CT scan with a contrast just to make sure, which, whatever. So, they're like, well, good thing is your aneurysm looks to be stable. And sweet. And then they could let us go, but it took like an hour extra.
Yeah.
And
anytime you've got a heart issue when you go into the hospital, they always want to check that shit.
Yeah, I know.
Even if that has nothing to do with why you're there.
I broke my foot. You have a heart problem? Let's check that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
it's kind of one of the reasons I loathe going to the hospital or a doctor like that. Because they do that all the time.
It's gotten better, but like yesterday, I could tell every 3 hours. I was like, oh, I'm coming up on my 4th hour because I could have another breathing treatment. Today, it's not been that bad, but I can't do a lot. Like, you can barely see it on my screen, but right there that I'm pointing at, the blackness, we installed these curtains.
Oh, crap.
Block the light from my wife.
Yeah.
And my boys had to do most of it because I just can't maintain my breathing very well.
Oh yeah, the curtain. I see it now.
Yeah.
That's what you were showing.
Yep.
I've got one behind me because that's the thing to do when you're streaming. Block off the rest of your house so that you can only show what you want it to look like. And
I think I might tomorrow go down to Indianapolis. A friend of mine, the guy that he owns, a friend of mine owns a place that does frames, a framing place, like picture frames and stuff.
Okay. Yep.
He also does all the framing for Hugh Symes prints. So,
oh yeah, you were saying that.
Anyway, I'm going to see if he'll frame out those pictures you sent me.
Oh,
book cover. Yeah. Because I have the book cover that I bought from you, and then the Venom and the purple guy, Phantom.
The purple guy.
Well, he's purple. Well, his suit is.
Grimace?
Yes. It's Grimace before the weight gain.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so hopefully that'll work. Who knows?
Well, that's cool.
Only bad part is I got to see how Indianapolis is so torn up right now. Google Maps has no idea. Like last time I was there a couple weeks ago for my boys, they had a doctor's appointment, and Google Maps could barely get us there. And I mean, it's just ridiculous, the kind of stuff it was doing. And there are several places where it thinks you're on one road and you're not, because they bifurcated the roads and all this stuff. And it's just like, God bless us. Like they literally had me go down this road and then do a U-turn and go back the way I had come. That I had come. I was just like,
we've had that happen too. Like, like, what? You're telling me to go so far, and then you're going to tell me to turn around? What do you mean?
Yeah, and it wasn't like I couldn't.
You're not doing your job very well.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, sometimes like I've been places where like you can't get to the turn from your side of the road, so you do have to go past and do a U-turn, but it's not that far. You know what I mean? This was like 20 minutes one direction to go back 40 minutes the other direction. I'm like, you just could have had me go on the right exit, but it doesn't know where the exits are anymore.
Doesn't know or doesn't care.
Yes.
Right.
So there have been things there that, I mean, my entire adult life of driving in Indianapolis, and some of the stuff that's just has always been that way is now no longer like that, and it is a cluster. Oh, we got 2 viewers, and neither one of them is me. Because a lot of times, I will pull up Twitch, which I will do now, so I can have 3 people. I saw a call for submissions for AI written stories. And I'm just like,
then why are they calling for submissions?
Yeah. It's kind of what I thought. I was like,
ChatGPT and plug in the fucking prompt.
Yeah. You know, get your, I don't know.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
That's kind of what I thought. I'm like, why are you asking people to press the button for you? And then part of my my tin hat paranoia just says, oh, they're making a list of who's using AI, and they'll know never to buy anything from them.
that could very well be too.
I thought that was...
So this stuff that I had first, that I said that I had a hard time breathing with, and whatever, I was spitting up all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
So some doctor, I guess, north of us,
so he's Canadian?
nicknamed it the 100-day cough.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of people that have had it, so it like comes and goes. Like, yeah. So I drop my pencil and I break it. My leg.
Oh. That does tend to happen.
And in return, it sheared off at a little bit of an edge, so I've got a little bit of a point on my pen on this pencil, which is normally my dull pencil.
Oh yeah.
So I do my roughs with this and then kind of flesh it out a little bit with a finer pencil.
Yeah.
My thinking here is that I want to make this hood look like hair.
Okay.
But like I was saying, the whole thing, because the only thing that's really her is her face, right? Her head.
Yeah.
And now I'm asking because I'm wondering if it's what's not just her head, but what's inside her head is the real thing. Because if it's a case of it can be whatever it wants to be.
I just kind of assumed that her head was about the only thing that she had left. Maybe her lungs.
It's interesting to think, what would you give up? It's almost cyberpunk, right? What would you give up? What would you give up to get a superpower that's really technology? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you give up your body? You know? Would you give up feeling? Oh, that stuck to my hand. Not supposed to stick to my hand. And call it a gummy eraser. Not supposed to be really gummy. Not like gummy bears or something.
So you know that short story that I was working on that I was asking about on Slack? This morning I woke up with the thought
that was the one that you were asking about.
Yeah.
The alternate main character?
Yeah. But this morning I woke up and I kind of chuckled at the thought. And I was like, huh. So she's really more of a feminist, lesbian, binary Mary Poppins.
What?
That's just the thought that I woke up to. That's how I would describe that character. Ugh. Oh, I think last time that we were streaming, I misspoke. I thought that the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare came out March 19th. It comes out April 19th.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't out yet.
Yeah. I was wrong. I'm correcting myself on air.
It's a small matter.
Yeah, except for I was really looking forward to that. Although I have been watching episodes of on Netflix of The Gentleman, and I have enjoyed it. So so far, I'd recommend.
I've been watching Shogun.
Oh, I've been meaning to watch that. Gotta add that in.
And I think they've kind of started slipping some politically correct crap into it.
Well,
so, let me qualify that before everybody gets angry.
yes, all three of our viewers.
Well, I'm assuming that more people watch later because normally, like when I look, there've been more people viewing than it tells. But anyway, when I say politically correct crap, I don't mean like gays, because in that time period and even in the book, they talk about pillowing, which is sex for health's sake. And there's no distinction of whether somebody's sleeping with a male or a female. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
So it's not thought of. I don't know how it's thought of over there now, but in that time period, in the 1600s or whatever, in that time period, it wasn't a big deal. It was just, if you pillowed with a boy, you pillowed with a boy. If you pillowed with girls, you pillowed with girls. So, like, that was it. You weren't interesting enough. Here's a weird observation, but interesting enough, they paid less attention to who you were sleeping with than who you were killing. And sleeping with somebody was the equivalent of drinking with somebody. You know what I mean? It was just something that happened on the side, and you're, a warrior, or you're, depending on what your class is. I mean, obviously, they're a class system. But when I say politically correct or political stuff seeping in or whatever, it's because characters in the book aren't acting like characters in the book.
Oh.
And there are instances that, like, there's hints at a gay relationship between two people who in the book did not have a gay relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, there were people in the book that did have that kind of relationship. So the reason that I feel that it's politically correct slipping in is mostly because they weren't naturally like that. It's been changed to fit, the times. Or there's a character that is basically speaking boldly to men about, and boldly not only to men, but men that are in charge of her or whatever, that there's no way that she would have spoken like that because it's disrespectful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't take into account the actual traditions of the time and beliefs of the time and all that. One of the things that was a key in Shogun was that the Buddhists and Shintoists believed that if you died, you were reincarnated in like 40 days. So when somebody was like, "Oh, you need to kill yourself for honor," nobody gave it a second thought, because in 40 days they'd be back.
That certainly changes the way that seems.
Yeah, it's a whole different mentality. So also they could be back as a rock, they could be back as a tree, they could be back as a dog, that kind of thing. But it life is life, and it's not a big deal if they have to give up one life and start all over living another one. Shinto usually is a more accented on you could be coming back as rocks in a rock garden or a bonsai tree or you know a bird or whatever. You could be coming back as anything. Uh, Buddhists, I think, more believe that you're reincarnated as a different being, a different human being, until you get it right. So, but yeah, so it changes the mentality when you're not going to be afraid to die if you think you're going to be back in 40 some days or 40 days or whatever.
Right.
Like I don't know the in-depth thinking. Like, you don't care, and then you're gonna come back as a baby? You care about that maybe, or you're gonna have to learn everything all over again. And rearranged all my files because I was trying to make things neater and easier to find, and now I rearranged all my files, and I'm like, what did I name that file?
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm just looking for a reference for the leg muscles. It's really odd when you look at a comic book.
Yeah.
Almost any time you see a woman drawn, you're not going to see a lot of the leg muscle drawn in. Just the barest of shapes.
Well, they don't want her to be too masculine.
Right. It's the same thing with if you add too many lines to a face, everybody looks older. Whether those lines are there or not, when you add them in line work, you're aging somebody. Yep, that's funny. Like all the pictures that I've seen for reference, their legs are so smooth, you don't see any of the muscle tone. So what I'm wanting to do is take these are the separations. Remember I was telling you these are going to be like light sources behind it?
Yeah.
So these are like plates.
Okay.
And so like there's pretty much 3 muscles to the top of the thigh. There's a couple that cut across and a couple that come in here. But they're smaller, so it's just a matter of what's going to work or what's going to detract from it. And all the references that I've got, like I've got lots of references. I've got a lot of references. And the irony, that's just what's on my laptop, and I cleared most of my references off my laptop and onto a separate hard drive so I wouldn't let's see. Yeah, that would be the one. Now let's see a picture. Ooh. So you're quiet?
Well, I just waiting for you to find your picture.
Oh, I'm just looking for a reference, I've got a lot of pictures, but I've got some uh, photo references that I paid for. So there's like groups of hundreds of women warriors and all
Oh, that's
this,
cool.
and I'm just trying to get the right angle. And so far, I'm seeing one side of the leg or the other, not directly what I need.
Yeah.
Okay, that's close. That's much closer. Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of want it almost to look like a bug carapace, right?
Okay.
Well, because of what we were talking about,
No, it makes
you
perfect sense.
you figure it's chitinous, but those chitins open up, right?
Yeah.
You worked on this story, Annie?
Well, not since I did that last part. Part of the problem is that there are 5 days left in this quarter, and
You're under the gun.
a little bit. I have completed stories, I suppose. I just don't think they're right for that contest. So the story that I'm working on now, if I can get it to work, if I can get it done, I think will be fine. I still think, I don't know. Some of the problems are, it goes back to some of the unwritten rules, and they say things like, it's fantasy and science fiction, but I always get the feeling when they say fantasy, they don't mean traditional fantasy.
Right.
And, that's fine. And what's funny is, like, the judges get pissy when you mention stuff like that, or indignant, I guess. And
yeah, you're just saying pissy nicely,
okay,
right?
pretty much. But I keep thinking, Robert Jordan talked about this, and I think Dave Wolverton has as well. You should analyze the competitions you're going to submit to. So, and again, this goes back to they say one thing, and they may honestly believe it. But if you look at the numbers don't lie. So when they say they prefer third person, that's a lot. That's incorrect. That's just not. The numbers do not bear that out. Every time I've checked, I'm like, nope, does not, nope. There is no benefit to doing third person. In fact, I think it's a hindrance. And, so I think, like, when they say fantasy, I'm like, rarely do I see anything that I would consider to be traditional fantasy or sword and sorcery, or there's just a host of things that I mean, I'm sorry, but Tolkien himself would not win that contest, not with the stuff he writes or wrote. So I don't know, some of that just bothers me, because I'm like, but this is what I want to do. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't really matter. You also want them to pay. So if you want them to pay, you generally have to please them more than yourself. But, I have a hard time just not being stubborn, because I like what I'm writing, so I don't care.
Well, there's a degree of that. So what's the degree of it's okay to not want to win, not want to compete, because you like the story more than the fucking rules or limitations?
Well, here's what I would say on that. And it's a variation of something that I've realized about my students. So, every once in a while you get students who think they're going to be basketball stars or rappers or YouTubers or whatever. That's what they say they're going to do. But it's like, well, okay, what are you doing to make sure that happens? And how often do you take breaks from it and, just not do it? And, if I don't write for a few days, I get in a foul mood. And it really doesn't matter if I'm getting published or not. I got to be writing.
Right.
So, I'm going to write, and I'm going to want it to be something that I enjoy. The question I was asking about on Slack, part of that is because I'm like, I don't want to pander anyone, because I don't, because even though that's kind of what I was doing.
Only if you're doing that. I mean, there's compelling reasons to not, to write that story without being pandering.
Well, and I'm trying not to pander.
Do you have any of those reasons,
Well, and again, I think the story will work, and I think the themes of it, the pandering issue, it fits in with those. It fits in with some of the general themes. It's an avenue I can explore, and I don't have to hit people over the head. And I have no problem with that. If I felt like I was doing it just to pander, then I don't think I'd do it. I just don't think I could do it. I don't know.
And that's the thing, because that's why I said, you said, and I kind of was, and I was like, only if you are. So the question is, is that character, if you wrote that character like a regular,
right?
Is it the same character? And why, if so or if not? Those are the really tough questions that make the difference. Is it pandering? Only if that character is,
Is that way just to have representation, and I'm not doing it for representation?
Well, not just that way for the sake of being that way. Like, unless if they've got a reason, it's not pandering. They've got a reason. That's who they are, I don't have any problem with somebody conceiving a different point of view. Just not. I'll have a problem if it feels like it was a guy and you wrote it as a girl, just to be a girl.
Nope.
Then I would feel that. I think part of me would feel like that's that way.
Nah.
It might not be that way. I mean, it could very well be that it's just a tomboy that sounds very boyish or something. But if it sounded overly like it was a boy,
no.
I guess that's the lens. So it's like if you're looking through a boy's lens, they definitely, no matter how feminine they are, if you're looking through a boy's lens, even if they're gay, they're not going to think like a woman would naturally a woman, because she's been a woman her whole life, and there's some predispositions there.
Yep.
For, I guess for lack of a better term.
Well, it's like, I didn't know this, but a few years ago, I remember this movie coming out. There was a movie about, I think it's called like The Aeronauts or something. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but about this balloon, this ballooning duo.
Yep, the girl that's got the balloon.
Yeah, in real, it's based on a true story, but in real life, it was two guys.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know in real life it was two guys. I knew it was based on a true story, but
yeah, it's based on two guys.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to hear that.
They wanted representation. So
yeah,
it's like that's pandering.
And it actually screws somebody out of the truth.
Yeah.
Like if it was two guys that made that balloon trip, one of them don't get the credit for what they did in real life. That's kind of bullshit.
Yeah. We're like, God, I saw this list, because it's Women's History Month, and there was this list of all these things that we wouldn't have without women, which I just want to point something out. We don't have the human race without women. So everything, to some extent, is because of women. Also, we wouldn't have men either.
I actually broached a similar subject with this, and I think it's the what's the museum in Washington, D.C.?
Smithsonian?
Yeah, they're having a special woman's wing.
Okay.
Like, so they did this with tattooing. They had a competition that was the women's competition. My problem with that is that when you separate women's history from history, Are you validating them or invalidating them? Because in my opinion, you're invalidating them because you're saying they're not good enough to be just history. They have to have their own special history to be noticeable. I disagree with that. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree, but the meme that I was talking about though was worse than that, because half the things that they listed were not invented by women.
Right.
It would be like, well, this woman did calculations, and this is the guy who took those calculations and actually made something. Like, that's
yeah, what did I just see? One of the spies in World War II, the woman, not Matahari, maybe it was Matahari, I don't think it was Matahari, that said that she created Wi-Fi. She didn't create Wi-Fi, she invented the separation of whatever it was that led to the in creation of Wi-Fi, but it's not the creation of Wi-Fi.
Right. It's like
it's the precursor to the creation of Wi-Fi.
And my thing is, it's like, you shouldn't have to lie if your argument's good. Or misrepresent.
My thing is that you shouldn't have to separate men from women to give women credit where it's due. You shouldn't have to have a special focus because they should be focused already. You know what I mean? Madame Curie is Madame Curie, not Madame Curie, the woman scientist. I just don't think separating it off validates anything. It kind of invalidates it. Takes away all that hard work. Takes away all that battle, Yeah. Of course, again, qualifying it, it's just an opinion, but it's not that I don't think women are special or whatever, because I do. Like you said, without women, there will be no men.
That's right.
Well, there'd be one man, right?
Yeah, sure.
The first one.
Yeah. And he'd be chilling right now. He was lonely.
He'd be lonely, but he would still be alive.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, whatever.
We go back to that question now. What would you give up?
Yeah. But a lot of that stuff. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, you don't have to why. For a group of people that are so worried about misinformation, then they spread shit like that. It's just like, that's okay, sure. I mean, what's the point? And I think it's Ibrahim X. Kendi, or whatever his stupid name is, who said past discrimination can only be cured through current discrimination, and current discrimination will have to be rectified by future discrimination, which is really good for race grifters, but not good for the rest of humanity. And it's kind of what I think about when they try to misrepresent, contributions, and it also devalues the actual contributions that were made.
Yeah, that is my angle. It devalues the real things.
Yeah, because you can't hype up what you actually did. Like,
yeah, you shouldn't need to make shit up when you do something that's important, Why make shit up? You've done something that's important, something that changes the world.
Joe B says we're going to get demonetized discussing these topics.
What?
That's what he said. You're going to get
don't know what you said.
You're going to get demonetized discussing these topics.
Well, the interesting thing about that is
we'd have to be monetized first.
That's the one. Nobody's paying us for shit anyway.
That's right. They could pay us to shut up.
Yeah, right.
Just remember, we think that women are fabulous and wonderful and should be
Right.
valued as the beings they are.
We are not in any way devaluing women.
No.
Quite the opposite. At least that's my take on it. Quite the opposite.
Joe also said, "What's up?" and he'll take $5 to shut up.
Right. We don't want people to shut up on this channel. Like you can't say anything worse than's already been said, I guess.
Oh, that's a challenge that I could. No, that's bad. That's bad.
I don't know, when you think of stuff that's already been said,
Oh, just trust me.
that's pretty much. Like, someone in the last stream pretty much tried to call me a fraud, right?
I'm just saying
I started the David Finch channel just so that I could,
hype your shit.
advertise this channel. Like, First of all, I didn't start it. I'm like Billy Joel in that matter.
I also tend to think, so what? Let's say you did, but you didn't. I know that, but
Yeah,
who cares?
But the point is like trying to seem like I'm some kind of scammer that I'm only there giving advice so that I can get people to come here. I'm definitely trying to build this channel up. That's not a secret. That would be a lie of misdirection to imply that. But
I think we know some people we could probably recommend if you just, want to be lied to and have them hype their own stuff and take credit for all of your work, but that's not us.
yeah, right. I take credits for all my screw ups as well as all my good things. Like, I am not claiming to be anything super special. Just determined.
You're special. You're special.
Just determined. That's all that I am. Well, and I'd like to help people, but
Yep. Have you seen the memes for the new Acolyte Star Wars show?
me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh, they are some pure comedy. I mean, they're brutal. Like, it is. So, the original poster, I guess, for the show is a lightsaber blade, but instead of a beam of light coming out of it, it's just a streak of blood. Very dark, ominous poster. And the memes, oh my gosh. My favorite one was they replaced the lightsaber with a dog, and they kind of toned down the red.
With a what?
A dog. So it looks like a dog has just dragged it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it
Well,
looks like they...
I asked because it kind of sounded like you said dong.
No. Although
No,
we're going to
right.
get close to that. But so the dog has dragged its blood across the carpet, and that's what the streak is. Yeah, it's a beam of period blood. Yeah, they've replaced the lightsaber with feminine hygiene products and stuff. I mean, it is just,
Whoa.
oh gosh, they are getting brutal with this one.
Huh.
I would argue so far the only thing that I've really seen that I don't like about that Acolyte show, and I was already pretty sure because they act like it's such a big deal that it's so female centric, and it's like
Kind of
okay,
a little late for that.
well, it's like okay, you just had a sequel trilogy that had all women in charge of everything good. And a whole bunch of old white guys were the bad guys. Okay. Cool. And then, Rogue One, again, showrunner's female. You just had Ahsoka, which is all female, just about all female. So it's all this stuff. Look up what billionaire Nelson Peltz said about Disney Marvel movies lately. He's a large investor of those movies. Interesting. I will have to do that. And so, like, on the trailer, they showed, like, this group of Padawans, and there's not a single white male among the entire group. It's aliens, girls, or I think there's like one black kid, maybe. It's such a female-dominated room, though. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then, of course, all the major actors appear to be female, and it's like, okay, why are you just being so exclusionary? And that's the part. Like, I don't care if you have a female lead. I don't care if you have a female, like. Ocean's 8 is a great example of this. Ocean's 8 should have been awesome. I think they could have really, really done something neat with that. The idea of an almost all-female burglary crew, I thought sounded great. I thought it could explore some neat stuff. Or even Doctor Who, when they made Doctor Who female. That could have been really interesting. But instead, it's just really more, they tried to exclude men. And it's like, that's not cool. Like, exploring a different facet, cool. Just trying to exclude men because women have been excluded in the past, that's not cool. Like, if you know it's wrong, then it's wrong. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, now, Joe B., if I read this stuff that Peltz said, you're right, we will be demonetized. Well, it's not, super terrible, but here, I'll read some. Who cares? This is Nelson Peltz. Why do I have to have a Marvel movie that's all women? Not that I have anything against women, but why do I have to do that? Why can't I have Marvels that are both? Why do I need an all-black cat? But,
so what's wrong with that? Those are absolutely fair questions, I think.
Not if you're a firm believer of the message. So.
Okay, but maybe that's really not an answer of what's wrong with it.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it.
That's what I'm posing is that, well, you said, we're going to be demonetized or whatever. If that's what it takes to demonetize, then anybody Comicsgate's fucked.
They're big enough; they don't have to worry about it.
Oh, they make even worse.
Oh, I know they do. I've seen some of that stuff. I was just like, okay. but not entirely wrong there. Again, why are we? They try to act like modern audiences don't have any white men in them. That's the thing I always think is weird. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Oh, we need to appeal to a modern audience. Cool. Didn't realize Lifetime Channel was a modern audience.
The comic skaters that I brought up a minute ago mentioned something really interesting, that most moviegoers are guys.
Yeah.
Like, if a woman's going to see a movie, there's a good chance that she's going on a date.
Yep.
And even if it's like chick flick stuff, it's still generally on a date.
Yeah.
But we know most readers are women. So most readers are women and most moviegoers are guys. But readers of comics are not the same stats as readers of novels. Unfortunately, there's not really much crossover there. I don't know if you've noticed that, but for all the talk about underrepresented characters or whatever, those are not the people that are reading the books. When I say books, I'm talking about comic books.
Right.
But it'd be different if you're talking about fiction, and there's so much alternative fiction out there that it's not alternative anymore. So it's just ridiculous.
I agree.
I don't think there's any reasonable reason that everybody can't be able to write something or show something that is in their wheelhouse, in their demographic. Because if I'm writing about straight white guys, there's a whole audience for straight white guys. If I'm writing about, gay superheroes, there's an audience for gay superheroes. I don't think it's as big as the audience for straight superheroes. That's more of an opinion, because I haven't actually done the statistical studies or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's when you're looking at entertainment,
you don't want to lecture?
Huh?
When you're trying to be entertained, you don't want to lecture normally?
Right. Well, when you're looking at entertainment, you don't want to be forced into seeing something you're not interested in.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you're interested in. It comes down to that. You don't want to see stuff that you're not interested in. I don't want to see stuff that I'm not interested in. But when we started writing, when I started writing anyway, I was taught that there's an audience for everything. Why not, customize your stuff to the audience that you're seeking, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're taught to do. That's what all the big name writers said they did. So what makes it different now? What makes a subject taboo that's not even anything but tame, right?
Right.
That's the big questions for me. Like, why is it taboo? Why would they demonetize us for talking about stuff that is, the most common actually? Oy. Am I
What?
lost?
What's wrong?
Oh, I'm looking through my reference database and having problems seeing that I'm not finding what I should be finding.
Oh. That's always frustrating.
Yeah. And it is. I guess I'm not too worried about it. It's just trying to get this front view of the shin. I'm trying to work with that actual muscle tones, but I want to have it look like there's strips and pieces that build those muscle tones. So, what do you think? Is it looking acceptable?
Yeah.
It's tricky to point fingernails or fingers at you without having them look more masculine because something in the thinness of them disappears when they're reaching towards you.
Excuse me again. Goodness.
Joe and I were talking a little bit earlier about the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Yeah, it is a bit crazy. lot of conspiracy theories floating around about that already.
Well, the footage I watched was narrated by someone in the know about bigger boats,
Yeah.
and they're talking about how the mechanical failure. We don't know what led to the mechanical failure, but the mechanical failure is definitely an issue of it. I'm listening to Amanda with Eli upstairs. He's on his phone or something like that. And
Yeah.
she's all like, "Hey, it's time to calm down or whatever." And the next thing I hear is, "What do you mean you can't sleep? You haven't even laid down yet." If he was downstairs, he'd be telling me he's staying up all night partying.
Oh.
Yeah, sad story about that bridge. Definitely. Prayers go out to the people that were injured in the fall of that bridge and the families of those who were lost in it. That bridge went down just so crazy. Like watching the footage of that, I'm just astounded. Like I'm almost at a loss for words watching it come down. Like it didn't look like that boat hit that hard, you know what I mean? It looked like it was going way slower than that, and it came down like a house of cards.
Joe said, darker topic, look up what the Russians did to the captured gunman in that Moscow concert shooting.
Oh, that's a darker subject?
I was thinking this was dark enough.
Yeah, like that's what I was like. That's a darker subject? And maybe I'll save that for later when I'm,
When I'm desperate for a black pill.
Yeah, no, I'll probably look it up because now I'm curious, but it's you really don't need darker subjects.
That's not pleasant.
Yeah, the forcing him to eat it part is the fucked up part. I don't know if you know this, Joe, but in 1066, when William the Conqueror came over, those people that were supposed to be behind him that weren't actively participating in being for him, he cut off their nose, their ears, their tongues, and their hands. So and left them that way. So people would have to literally take pity on them to feed them. Like tongues, nose, ears, hands.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, he didn't force anybody to eat them. That's rougher.
That is a little weird.
Well, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit not up to date on what happened there, because there might be a very good reason that they felt it was deserved. I can honestly tell you right now, I'm not looking forward to inking all this. I don't think it's going to be a fast process. Because there's a certain look I want it to have when it's all done.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was looking up. I mean, I chose Al Jazeera, whatever it is. I can't say it.
Al Jizz.
Al Jazeera, whatever it is. Anyway, said that I mean, because I kind of figure they'll tame things down, but said this guy Raka Balazoda had a heavily bandaged ear, and Russian media said on Saturday that one of the suspects had his ear cut off during interrogation. So, who knows? That's one of the problems when you can't trust. I don't trust Russian media because it's controlled by the state. Well, I don't really trust our media because it's controlled by the Democrats. So,
which is the state.
Yeah.
So the problem is that the media shouldn't be on anybody's side. They should just be reporting what's happening.
Yeah, it should, but it's the bad part.
Well, I've known for a long time that they are actually teaching kids that they want them to have not an agenda, but an obvious favor.
Yeah.
They want them to write creatively about the truth, which is not writing the truth, it's writing creatively, right?
Right.
When you're presupposing what happened or why it happened, which is one of the things that the media has been flawed with so much. Like every time there's a shooting, they're talking about how it's right-wing nut job or whatever, and then it turns out to be left-wing, and then all of a sudden there's radio silence.
Yep.
Suffice it to say, people on both sides are getting frustrated and shooting people on both sides. Like, why is that so hard to be honest about, you know? We know why, because they're agenda-driven, but it doesn't make for trustworthy reporting.
I was watching an episode of Bill Maher's show, and there had just been a shooting, and they started talking about it, and they didn't know a lot of details at the time, whatever it was. And one of the people on the panel was like, "Well, I can tell you right now, it's not a white guy." And they're like, well, "How do you know that?" And she was like, "Because if it had been a white guy, we'd know it already."
Yeah, right.
If it was a right winger, we'd know it already. It'd be plastered everywhere. So, it's just one of those things that's like, wow, I can't believe they actually said that on Bill Maher's show. But,
well, Bill Maher has been kind of leaning a little bit away from the leftists now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a lot, but a little. It's funny because I still associate Bill Maher with DC Cab. Like, every time I see him, I expect him to be playing the keyboard and smoking with a fedora. And Gary Busey to bust in and say, I don't work on December the 8th because that's Elvis's birthday.
Joe said he's seen photos of some of the above and photo proof of what they've done to the gunman. And Joe, I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong in any way, shape, or form. Again, I found at least some confirmation of, guys missing an ear. So, I don't want you to think I was trying to call you out or say anything about it. I just had it known and started looking into it, and it's not looking good. So, at the same time, part of me is like, I don't know. I mean, if someone came into the United States and shot up a concert venue, yeah, Joe, that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm simply saying, I haven't found anything about it yet. But again, what little I found was confirming what you had said so far. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at some of the stuff that, our government tends to treat criminals with more respect than the victims. And, if someone opens, fire on a concert venue here, we blame the people that got shot. If we weren't involved.
Gun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll blame the guns because they got up and shot people, but they'll also blame everything but the actual shooter. Blame his parents, blame his politics, blame everyone. It's like, how about you blame the guy that pulled the trigger? And I understand that if there are issues that are causing that kind of violence, you shouldn't ignore them, but that's not the time to have that discussion.
Yeah, at that time, he's already a murderer.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah, I think you take decisive action to curtail that kind of you take decisive action to curtail future transgressions.
Yeah, but you can't. You cannot legislate good behavior.
That's true. You can't.
And that's exactly what you'd be talking about doing.
No. I think you should punish the perpetrator, not say it's the guns or all you people who didn't shoot somebody, give up your guns.
When you say take precautions so that it doesn't happen in the future, like what kind of precautions can you take that's going to be fair to everybody? You know what I mean?
I'm saying that when they cut off the guy's ear and shove it in his mouth, as distasteful as I find that, that's going to curtail some people.
Oh, well, in that case, I agree with you. A couple of people see that going on. They don't want to have it going on. That's my argument for why they should have armed resistance in schools. Because the first time a shooter walks into a hallway and gets fired back at, he's going to start thinking about, this isn't as easy as everybody said it was going to be.
Well, you look at, isn't it El Salvador, I think, that has that new prison system that's, ungodly harsh, but it's there to combat the growing drug cartels. And, I was like, yeah. There's always a balance between, letting people be free and then also, protecting them. And it's always that's a difficult balance to do. And
well, it's only a difficult balance because people think that anyone else is going to protect them. In the United States, the cops don't have to put themselves in harm's way. They do not have to step into harm's way for you. There are several rulings where people were murdered in horrific ways that the cops are not at fault. And the cops are not at fault because there was a ruling that said the cops don't have to put themselves in harm's way. Yeah. Like that whole protect and serve, everybody thinks that that's a law. It's not. It was a motto that the San Francisco police or the LA police came up with to make their cruisers more friendly and to make the people more friendly with their cruisers. But there's to protect what? Protect the general public and serve papers.
Yep, pretty much.
But if a cop doesn't have to protect you, if he doesn't have to step in harm's way, then who the fuck's going to protect you?
Well, the bad part about that is, whereas cops have rules to protect them for when they have to use lethal force, the government will use rules against you for using lethal force. And
they can try. They certainly can. But
and they have.
And there's expert witnesses that have been in many, many court cases proving that there is reason to use excessive force to protect yourself. In my state, I don't have that concern. We have castle law here.
Yeah.
So, you know, and we have constitutional carry. So, if I'm in fear for my life, if I'm protecting somebody else's life, or if I'm stopping a crime, I have every right to shoot somebody. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't exercise, the walk away, clause. You can walk away if you can walk away.
Always the preferred method, I think.
Yeah, but the cops are not going to protect you. The only people that are going to protect you is you. That's it. It's the only one you can guarantee that's going to protect you.
Well, that will attempt to protect you. I've seen some people try to protect themselves, and they did not do so well.
But that doesn't mean that the only person that can protect them is them. Whether or not they succeed at it, when a cop's needed, he's 20 minutes away. That's the quickest a cop can come. And if somebody's shooting at your ass,
that's true.
You can't expect them to get there in time. So basically, what I'm saying is that the only person that can be relied on to protect you and your family is you and your family, for the most part.
Joe wants to talk about P. Diddy now.
Yeah, I don't. So I got nothing.
Yeah, I have.
Well, you can. You can talk about whatever you want to. I'll go back to drawing and shut up.
I don't know. I mean, I know the feds raided his place or a couple of his places, I think, and he's someone accused them of, I think, sexual assault. But don't know enough to say anything intelligent about it. Sex trafficking? I don't know. Don't know.
I think someone recently just told me that they wanted to be able to have a place where they could go and express right-wing beliefs or conservative beliefs or conservative-leaning beliefs.
Oh, so they want to say hate speech. That's a joke.
Well, I'm saying, this is the place you can come to express whatever feelings you're having. Like, I'm not going to try to shut anybody down on their beliefs, but they're certainly not going to walk on mine.
Yeah, I don't worry about it. I just say, oh, okay, you're special.
Yeah. Cool, I guess. That's one of the reasons we started this channel, is to have a place that we can express whatever, you know?
Yep.
A place where you can sell fiction that maybe isn't the popular fiction of the day. A place for you to have a platform to talk about unpopular stuff sometimes. We all get beat down. We all need a place to blow off steam. That's it. That's why I don't ban anybody or bar anybody or whatever. If
Well, we haven't had anyone be an absolute turd either.
I've had a couple of people that show up being a dick, but I can take it. You know what I mean? So,
So you're saying you can take dick?
no, I can take them being a dick. As demonstrated by Brett.
I agree. Thank you, Joe. Joe said you walked into that one. Actually, he said he walked into that one. So maybe I walked into your comment. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Well, I just said, you know, I can handle somebody being a dick.
I know.
Because I believe we all have the right to, believe it or not. It's kind of like those people that fought for our country and fought for the rights for us to be assholes to them for fighting for our country.
Yeah.
I've got the utmost respect for every veteran, period.
John Kerry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean that I'm in agreement with him. I can respect him without agreeing with him. I can let him speed by me and not call him all kinds of names because he's a veteran, you know. John McCain, too. And he's arguably a traitor from the veterans, you know, so. If they served, if they sacrificed or been willing to sacrifice, they get my respect. You know, if they're senile, they still have my respect. They just have my sympathy too.
Yeah.
I think some people, mentioning John Kerry, don't really have any political opinion. They're boring. They have to have somebody else's opinion. That's the feeling that I really got from John Kerry, is that he wasn't really inspired by anything.
The grift.
I don't think he was inspired by it. I think he was just doing what he had to do to pull the plow to make the money. I could be wrong. I could be naive. I'll be the first to admit that. Not only am I the first to admit that I could be wrong, I'd be the first to admit that I was wrong if I was wrong. Now, ironically, have all kinds of medical respect for veterans, but some soldiers I don't.
Okay, so
The ones that join to take advantage of the GI Bill, and that's all they join for, and they don't expect to go to war. I don't think they're very bright. Like if I'm not saying people that join for the GI Bill aren't bright, but those ones that don't expect to go to war, like you join the army and don't expect to actually be sent anywhere, like that's what the army is. You know?
yeah.
Well, you got to come over here because he can't hear you from over there.
I think I did. Is that Eli?
Yeah, Eli. มีคนไหนมันก็ชอบมาค่ะ her cat her cat วะ
What about a cat?
ยังไงเอาสารอ๋อไหนใช่ไหม
He said he was calling Renee,
Okay.
which is his mother's cousin,
Okay.
to show
cat ใน run the house
to show Renee his cat.
Okay. Okay.
yeah
And Renee showed him her cat
run a play run a
that's running around the house.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's that's the biggest blessing in all this other shit is that he doesn't really register all this crap that's going on. Like, I would try to shelter him from it anyway, but he doesn't need shelter from it because he just don't care.
Yeah, I wish.
พ่อมาฟังอะไรเอาว่ามา
I feel like it's an addiction type thing. Like, I didn't used to ever really pay attention to it much. You know, my parents would watch the news, and I was always bored out of my mind. And you weren't allowed to talk, and so you just went and played in your room while they watched the news. And
I think as kids, first of all, we're less prone to see what's going on because it's adult shit, it's boring shit. It's not what we're thinking about or what we want to think about.
yeah,
I think it's always been there because I thought, like, when I was a kid, it wasn't so prevalent. It was. We just didn't recognize it. Like, if you watch MASH,
yeah,
like, all the way through MASH, Ellen Alda's pushing a leftist agenda, and he literally pushing it like as if he could get away with pushing that shit through the war.
right.
But I never noticed it as a kid.
Yeah,
For the most part, I just, as a kid, didn't really want to watch MASH. I just had to,
well, I enjoyed MASH when I was little.
I did later on because it ran for a long time. Or the
Oh yeah,
reruns ran. The reruns ran for a long time.
still on. You can still find that stuff.
I binge watched it a couple of years back when I literally couldn't move to walk or whatever because of the SI joint dysfunction. It was so bad. I binge watched it on, like, I want to say Netflix, but it was something. Netflix or Amazon or whatever.
Yeah,
And that's when I discovered how truly kind of atrocious it was when it was talking about politics, because the politics were in everything. And then I started noticing politics were pretty much in everything. And you could tell the right-wing shows from the left-wing shows. The difference is when I was a kid, there were right-wing shows. Now there's only like one, and that's Tim Allen's.
yeah, something like that.
Like Blue Bloods started off being both. It started off showing both sides of the opinion, right?
Right.
But then about season 11, which is almost halfway, it went completely woke. And now, surprise, surprise, it's on its last season. Well, why is it on its last season? Because it went completely fucking woke. And it went woke for the wrong audience. It was selling, the show was being sold to an audience that leaned right, or leaned conservative, or libertarian, or whatever. But that's the audience, and when you start going from that to huge leftist planning, and it's so bad that it's obvious in every episode, then yeah, why I'm not surprised at all that they shut it down.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting comment on Twitch. So, Joe's on YouTube, and he said that guy who dressed up as a woman in that show to get out would be accepted in today's military. And you were talking, so I just responded in the text. No, Klinger gave it up eventually. But that goes to both Twitch and YouTube. So Twitch has one.
Here's the thing that's going to get them pissed off on Twitch.
Oh.
Klinger was doing it to show he was fucking not right in the head.
Right.
He was trying to get his Section 8, so
right.
He was cross-dressing in the military to show that he was fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
That's the actual argument against Klinger. Klinger's not a representative of how the military should be. It's him showing that he's not right for the military.
I was watching a clip today, weirdly enough. Just had Alan Alda and so Hawkeye and Klinger. And Klinger was wearing a wedding dress.
Yep.
And they talked about how it was tasteful and it was kind of funny just the way they were talking about it. But I was thinking, God, I don't think they could show this on TV anymore. Because, Klinger was trying to prove he was crazy. So,
right.
Although I suppose you could argue everyone else's acceptance of it is the counter argument. Nobody cared.
Well, that's what I was saying by the show is overtly liberal. You just, you had to be adult enough to understand that. But yeah, like Alan Alda's character is the defender of pretty much all those types of thinking.
Yeah.
He's the one that's, berating soldiers for having kids with Koreans and fighting for the social justice causes of the early 80s through a program about the 50s. I never noticed it as a kid, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I never noticed it as a kid because I was way too young to notice it. You're talking about the early 80s and some of the earliest TV I can remember, but
that's kind of what I'm saying is that we didn't notice it because we weren't looking for it. We were either it was boring to us to even think about that, or we're not paying attention to that aspect of the show.
To be fair, that wasn't what the whole show was about. And I think a lot of modern stuff, that's all it's about. So it's not hidden very well.
Actually, it is really the whole show, the TV show, was about social justice causes. If you watch it again, and you watch it all the way through, you're going to have a hard time showing me something that's not about social justice causes.
Okay. I always knew that, Frank Burns was the conservative right-winger. So was...
Right. Gunman. But he's also a coward.
Yeah. Charles. But they did right by Charles sometimes. And so I don't know. I don't think it was I don't know. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses because of nostalgia.
Right, and I did too until, like I said, until I binge watched it. Like,
well, see, that might also be something different though, because when you binge watch it, you're taking it all in. You can make the connections faster and easier.
yes.
Whereas,
yes.
you know, if you're watching it once a week or even once a day, that you might not notice it as much.
Right, and that just makes it craftier.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, I'm not trying to be like a huge downer or whatever, but I was just, mentioning the fact that we weren't looking for it then, so we didn't see it then, but it was there. But like I said, the major difference between now and then is that then there were other options. There were conservative leaning shows. Think about the big shows in the 80s, like even the comedies and everything, Different Strokes. What do you think that was about?
Well, yeah.
Seriously, what's the successful comedies, the ones that they pushed, and what's the successful regular TV shows? What was the actual subject matter of them? Like a lot of, there was, and that's another thing too. There were shows that were in the 80s.
Jeffersons.
Yeah, right. There were shows that were in the 80s that actually weren't political. Like if you watch, like say Magnum PI, you probably weren't going to see a whole lot of politics. And they had a black helicopter pilot, but it wasn't like forcing it. TC was TC, right?
Right.
And he was a part of the military group that they had been in.
I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff, like I'm thinking about the Cosbys, and on one hand, the Cosby, one of the biggest shows of the 80s, and they were, to some extent, I mean, you have a married household, an intact family, that for the most part had pretty conservative values, but they would push certain.
You mean Bill Cosby had conservative values? The rest of the cast did not.
Okay, whatever. I'm saying that the family itself.
That,
they. Some of the stuff was. It wasn't purely leftist, and it wasn't purely right of center. I mean, it was.
I think that you are. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like this idea that the kids should listen to their parents, and when they don't, there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's very conservative.
There's a whole bunch of there that's really family oriented, and I'm not disparaging that. But
they also do stuff. Although it's been years since I've watched it, but I'm sure they were pushing some social agendas at times. It's just like, well, all right.
Yeah, they were, and you're talking about a prominent black family, and then see what their problems are. Like what the big issues shows are. But then look at Cosby. Cosby himself was right wing, and then he got busted for, and now they canceled him, right?
Right.
So I mean, this is what I'm talking about a little bit too, is that there's other issues that are involved.
I've always thought the timing, like when he started talking about, because for a while he was given, like essays and speeches and stuff about, that fathers need to stay in the home, or need to stay married and involved and all this stuff. And he was.
I agree. That's right in line with what Thomas Sowell was saying. That the breakdown of the African American was the breakdown of the family, because Thomas Sowell moved from wherever he was to New York, and the school where he was there was a higher percentage of, I don't know what he was saying. I'm trying to remember. It was a higher percentage of graduates, but in the black community. He was saying that the difference is that in that place there was also a higher percentage of families, like families that weren't broken up. There was a mother and a father in the home and all that.
Right.
So I think that Cosby and Thomas Sowell were on the same page, until until the whole rape drug thing, and I don't know how much I believe of that, but
well, I find it very strange that those accusations came out after he started espousing his very conservative views and criticizing a lot of the leftist narrative, and then all of a sudden,
it really strange that they came out like 40 years.
That's what I mean. It's like, wait, what?
It was a hell of a long time before anything ever came out.
Yeah,
and that's kind of suspect. When stuff like that happens, it's really suspect to me that nobody said anything about it beforehand. Nobody ever accused him of anything in the whole time of his whole span of his whole entire life until the Me Too movement or whatever.
Right.
That it just seems suspect to me. That's not saying that it's not true, because I don't know whether it was true or not.
No, but other people have made false accusations, and therefore all
up until then.
Yeah. Well, again, anyone that makes a false accusation tends to make all other accusations suspect, and that's one of the dangers of false accusations.
Have you
and
seen
the idea that we don't have any is crazy, because that's been proven not true.
Have you seen the memes that are showing the chick that's accused Trump, and they're showing like how is it believable when they didn't believe that Linda Tripp was true? They didn't believe that all this other shit was true, and yet Trump's married to Melania Trump, and he's gonna mess around with this nasty old hag. Like, why is that unbelievable? Like, in the least bit.
No one believes it. Not a single. First off, he was accused of not of raping her, but of basically digitally assaulting her. That's a nice way of putting it. And nobody believes that. The idea that nobody remembers this ever happening, and it just so happens to be the plot of a Law and Order episode. I mean, everyone knows that it is it's completely made up. And the problem with this is, again, you're just highlighting, you're highlighting a two-tier justice system, and then it's funny because people are saying Trump is benefiting from a two-tier justice system. It's like, what are you talking about? He's getting hammered by these things, and how is he benefiting? Gosh, he got that ridiculous, almost $500 million fine reduced for bail, or whatever it is, bond, I guess it is. He got that reduced to $175 million. Ooh. And Trump people are saying, "Oh, that's a big win." Which, I'd rather pay $175 million versus $475 million. But in the end, it's still a chunk of change. And I don't care if he's now one of the top 500 richest people on the planet, which he is now. It's still a chunk of change. And for what? Because you're going to believe, there's no way this thing ever, I think, goes past. It'll go up the chain on appeal, but if it stands, it's terrible for our country. I don't care if you like Trump or not. It's terrible precedent.
The bank thing?
The bank thing, the thing with the
bank thing is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. No bank brought a charge against Trump, so that's malicious prosecution, and that's easily enough proof.
Well, there's all kinds of. I mean, yeah, trust me. There's all kinds of things wrong with the bank thing. Then but even the rape case is ridiculous. The RICO case is also ridiculous. I mean, it's just dumb.
Yep. And it's obvious what they're doing and why they're doing it. So
yeah. Although then again, a friend of mine was just posted a thing on some article he found, and he's like, admittedly, this is from a leftist website, but
no shit.
It breaks down how Joe Biden's, mumbling and meandering and falls, that's due to age. But the changes in Trump's behavior, that's due to the onset of dementia. It's like, okay, if you...
Wait a minute, wasn't Joe declared...
mentally unfit?
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, it wasn't exactly that, but...
He was mentally unfit to stand trial, right?
He would present as a sympathetic witness due to his failure to remember things. Not that he was mentally unfit, but he would present as being mentally unfit. Gotta thread the needle there. It's all right. BS.
It is.
Well, same with Hillary Clinton and, destroying evidence. Well, she didn't mean to. Like,
yeah,
what?
She didn't sign repeated fucking agreements to not take, classified documents. And what's that next step down from classified?
I don't know.
Secret?
Restricted? I don't know.
No, it's classified and secret, or top. Classified and, I don't know.
When you have a server built in your house, there's a problem.
Yeah, well, she wasn't supposed to take it to her house. We all know that, but she wasn't supposed to have it out of whatever area it is, and she got away with saying she didn't know that when every year that she's been a politician or her husband has been the politician, she's had to sign an agreement saying that she understood the rules of those kinds of documents.
Joe said any credibility in that rape case went out the window when that victim went on some news show celebrating the verdict and how she was going to spend the money awarded. I don't know about that's when the credibility went out the window, but okay. And he said classified, secret, and top secret.
It definitely went out the window then, though. Yes. It's secret and top secret. That's what I was thinking.
But the whole thing was bogus. And if people want to willfully ignore it,
that they're not supposed to take it out of the office on, and she knows it because she signed paperwork that said she knew it. And if she didn't sign that paperwork, she couldn't have had the positions like Secretary of State or whatever that she did, right? So, are we supposed to believe she's incompetent after she signed? What was it? I think it was like 13 times she signed that document or something like that. It was a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, well.
And now all of a sudden she didn't understand it. But Trump, who was president one time, and who can actually declassify things,
yeah,
gets called out for taking classified documents home. Well, if he took classified documents home, they're obviously not classified anymore.
What I find funny is
to do that.
Ultimately,
a procedure to do. He didn't have rules that he had to follow to do that. There's no established. There's an established tradition, but not an established law for it.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, all right, all powers. If you're part of the executive branch, all powers are derived from the president, whoever the president is.
Yep.
So the idea that there's some agency or person who has more authority about the classification of a document than the president makes no sense at all.
Here's an odd little fact. Like Nick Recato was talking about this. He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
The president can't just declare something classified. That goes through the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ. They can declare it classified. He can't just declare it classified, but he can unclassify anything at will.
By the way, I have a question about the artwork. I've had it for
What?
a while. I have
What?
a question about your process, actually.
My process?
So, yeah, your
I don't
process.
want to give away my secrets. Oh,
Okay,
Just
well, I'm still going to
just
ask.
kidding.
So,
Just kidding.
I
have
understand that
any
you
secrets.
start in with pencil, and you go light, and it gets darker as you go through, as you kind of finalize where lines are going to be and that kind of stuff. That's cool.
Yeah,
But-
I call it committing
Okay.
because you do loose lines. All right, so this paper, this Bristol board,
Yeah.
anyone who's worked on it knows that if you push hard and you do dark pencils, it will literally leave a groove in it.
Yeah.
So I draw light and I draw over and over and draw through, which means I draw, like, I drew the head, but then I drew the hair /
Yeah.
hood through the face. I do all that light, and then I commit the lines that when I've got them the way that I want them, then I darken them to commit them.
Okay. So that's actually where my question comes in. If you're going to commit, and you already know you're going to commit, why not just start off with inks at that point?
Because I'm a control freak.
Okay, I just wondered.
Well, because, like, I know I'm going to commit, but, like, these lines, these
Yeah.
aren't as dark as they look. And the reason that I just don't pop out in ink is because when I say I'm a control freak, I don't know whether I want thicker or thinner lines, ink lines, for certain parts. Because these parts, all these little strips, are supposed to be glowing. And when you do that with colors, you're doing that on a computer, and it's called a color hold. Now, if I was to do it on traditional media, I would have to paint those lines in with whatever the color is that I wanted to have for the color. So, like, say I'm having a glowing, really, really light blue, then I would use a light blue line, or I would just paint that and then highlight it in between, get lighter in between. But if you're doing it on like Photoshop, or you're doing it on CSP, you can do what's called a color hold, where you're actually changing the colors of the lines.
Okay.
So I'm debating on how I want to do that with this, because some of these things I'm thinking would look cool, like plates overlapping, and some of them I want to look like they're glowing in the middle. And then the more I go, the more I want it to look like they're glowing. You know what I mean? I'm still working and creating as I go, but I am no longer worried about how I'm going to position this hand and this arm. I'm no longer worried about how I'm going to position this leg and how much of it I'm going to show.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I just was.
Well, you're asking me about my process, and I'm trying to explain. Like, I still haven't committed all fully to some of these lines on the edge, but pretty much I know that these are the positions that I want them to be in, and they're pretty much the proportions that I want them to be.
Okay.
I could probably start inking, but I don't feel like I have that much control at that point. Like when I start inking, I want to have a game plan to not just ink a line, like I'm going to color these as a plate. So where's the glare is going to be? Where's the light source going to be? You see what I mean?
Okay.
So once I commit to all this,
Try. Oh yeah, try.
yeah. Hey, I'm gonna come.
Oh yeah.
He's got his earphones in and they're blasting, so he can't hear. So he's yelling, and that drives me nuts. Just because he doesn't want to take those earphones out to listen to what I'm saying. So yeah, like once I get all this committed, then I'm going to go back through with this lighter pencil and shade it for the light source.
Okay.
Not the internal light source, but the external light source. To know where I want the glare on the plates, like on the booths, so that I can show it spherical instead of just round or just, So that's my thinking anyway. Like I could probably do it like John Byrne and just do everything black except for what I want not black, but I don't know how that's going to work with the hood and all that. So I want to play around with it a little bit to make sure it's really what I want. And then I'm going to decide what's going behind here, because I was thinking about putting Shepard in behind her, like in a crouch position.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we committed. I just wanted to not do a concept sketch as much as a kind of full comic-ish drawing, so that I, like now I can take this once I get this smoothed out, and we can use this for the show cover for the next episode or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have proportion right, but the muscle tone I used the reference of a bodybuilder. So that I could get a more accurate idea of where the muscle flow goes. Like this isn't supposed to be dead on for the muscle, but enough to tell where the muscle flows are. Because when we talked about this, we're talking about the ability to. So here's where my tweaking of it has gone. Like we talked about male and female being a choice, because the body is not an actual human body. It's what would you call
cyborg.
it? Cyborg. Well, it's a
shell.
representation. It's like an icon, but it's we haven't figured out what the matter is that makes it up yet.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking, like I said, the mass doesn't change.
Okay.
So if it's a guy and it's a bigger form, because guys have a bigger form, the mass is actually going to be thinner plates.
Okay.
Like it may not appear to be thinner plates, but if they're armored, then they would be less protective. Like if you fired 10 rounds at it, it might break through when you wouldn't be able to break through it as a female because of it. Or if somebody chopped a leg off or whatever, they could use it to reform the leg, but all the armor would thin overall to create that leg.
Okay. Joe said add some veins, but I don't think it's armor.
Yeah. He's being facetious because we were talking about different stream and different artists who drew veins all over the place. Not even necessarily. Well, I guess they would be there if they were varicose veins. But like when you get veins on the chest, usually you see the veins going like up over onto the chest. Like
Yeah.
not into the center, but up over onto it, and they're coming from the arm, and they go, But this person put veins like everywhere, so it was veins on the traps, veins across where the chest meets, like just little veins too,
Oh, okay.
like varicose veins. Which I wasn't thinking of it until just this very minute, but yeah, that's I'm sure that's what he's talking about. I say I'm sure, and then he's going to prove me wrong.
Well, at least he commented. So
What's that?
just because I wasn't part of the joke doesn't mean that it wasn't a good joke.
Well, I'm assuming it's a joke because he jokes a lot. But I could be wrong. I am quite often these days. I thought it's interesting that there's only guys talking in the chat and, talking on this channel right now. And not one of us mentioned the split.
I was waiting, and I was like, okay. Just because it looked like the absolute worst camel toe I've ever seen. But hey, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, we'll just wait to see what Rich does.
But it's not a real body, so, it's armor.
Yeah. Also, Rich...
It's not
Joe said-
labia. It's
Yeah.
armor.
Rich is finally getting my facetiousness.
And it's all caps except for facetious.
Yes, which makes me wonder if you had to type that somewhere to get the spelling right, because that's what I would have to do.
Facetious?
Yeah, well, facetiousness, yeah, I'd probably do it, but I wouldn't feel confident with it. I always find it funny when students ask me, how do I spell whatever it is? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you spell it? Or they say, well, how do you spell it? Incorrectly. What do you want to know?
Yeah, when people ask me how I spell it, I generally answer IT.
Nice.
It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. All my kids, they're like, dad joke.
Yep.
Like, dads are people too. Someday, you're going to be a mom or dad if you're lucky.
I told my boys one yesterday about how they crossbred cauliflower and watermelon. And the first people who ate it said it gave them the sense of melancholy.
Oh.
Yeah, my son grabbed me and tried to throw me out of my own kitchen.
Yeah, I'm generally too rude for that shit with my kids. They don't want to try to grab me and throw me. They just roll their eyes and leave the room.
Well, that's part of that. I taught my boys how to fight. And Whit, who is the smallest male in the house, although he's the older sibling, he's also a bit of a moose. So he's got some heft. Let's just put it that way.
And
Well, I just
just leave it there.
they roughhouse. That's all. I mean, I don't care. I'd say
Oh,
it's
so
all
you were
good
like,
fun.
well, that's how I taught my boys to fight.
Well, I did
Wait,
teach my boys how to fight. They,
You got some heft, and then you just left it at that.
like we've done the whole throwing thing, and strike lines and all that kind of stuff, and we spar. Just randomly. Just
I taught our oldest boy to fight like most dads teach their kids to swim.
you threw him in a group of fighters and said, "Survive."
Kinda. He got into a fight with somebody and then came running in the house, and I'm like, "Did you kick his ass?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, you either go out there and kick his ass, or I'm gonna kick your ass."
Wow.
So
There was one time Thaddeus.
you get your ass out there and fucking fight. Otherwise, I will beat the shit out of you. And the irony is that his sister, 3 years younger than him, has actually protected him most of his life.
Wow.
Kids were picking on him at the school, like, and trying to, give it whitewashing him.
Yeah.
And Caitlin saw them holding him down and whitewashing him. Packs a snowball with a chunk of ice and a rock in the middle.
Wow.
Whack!
Well, I remember once. So, Thaddeus has been swimming with the high school since he was in the middle school, and so he'd have to ride a bus to the high school, and then change there and go to practice. And some kid said something to him, called him a fatty because at the time he was a bit chunkier. And he just mouthed off to the kid, said, "That's because your mom gives me a cookie every time I make her come." That's what he said. And so the kid popped him right in the face. And, so I see him like a minute or two later, and he's trying not to cry, and there's a big red mark on his face. And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And he told me, and I'm like, "Well, son, that's why you don't run your mouth, especially around bigger people." Like, in my opinion, that whoever hit my kid probably taught him a valuable lesson, and it could have been a lot worse. So I
would have been on the other end of that. You get your ass back out there and beat the fuck out of me.
Well, I figure you ran your mouth, you paid the price. Your
your
mouth wrote a check, your ass had to cash.
You don't start a fight, but you fucking finish it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go out. I don't fucking approve of them going out and starting fights for no particular reason. But if someone starts a fight with them, they don't walk away. They finish it. You start walking away, then you never stop.
Well, seeing as that child is in trouble right now because there was somebody talking trash about him on the swim team, and didn't realize that Thaddeus was right in front of him until Thaddeus turned around and shoved him into the locker and had a bit of a aggressive negotiation with the kid. No punches were thrown. Just pointing that out. But Thaddeus was
necessary.
Just saying, Thaddeus.
Anything online.
Thaddeus, just again, just there's a lot of stuff that went into that, and at this point in time, when he's almost as big as me, and he does, I've trained. Not like he's like going to go pro or anything, but he knows how to make a fist. He knows how to throw a punch. He knows where strike lines are. You know, he knows how to do things. Knows how to control himself. So, you know, he could have done a lot more to the kid. Instead, he just calmly expressed how he didn't want to hear any more of that talk. And that was the end of it, as far as I was concerned. Now, the school is not quite agreeing with me on that, but that's a different story for a different day.
What?
Well, the school doesn't agree with my assessment of the situation, which is nice, but ultimately I'm not going to care.
Yeah. I find schools are like that. They don't seek the truth, really.
Well, I'm not going to get into it on stream.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to make you. I'm just saying, in my experience, Logan's been into a fight and he's not a fighter. So I knew damn well when they told me that he was into a fight, there was a reason.
Well, yeah.
So, like,
Wick got into a fight like that once.
The school doesn't tell you, oh, it's justified because this kid was throwing rocks at him.
Right.
The school tries to make it look like it's his fault. Oh, the kid was smaller than him. Well, yeah, because, you know, Logan's fucking 350 pounds and 6 foot tall. A lot of the kids are going to be smaller than him, but if that kid's throwing fucking rocks at him, he can take a swing at him.
Pretty much how I feel about those kinds of things. Like, if you're not protecting my child will protect himself.
Yeah, like I knew he wasn't fighting to protect himself either. He was fighting to protect his girlfriend.
Well, there you go.
Because the kid was calling his girlfriend names. Because kids.
Right.
But the kid was calling his girlfriend names, and that's the crux of it. If the kid wasn't fucking with his girlfriend, there would have been no issue at all. He wouldn't have never fucking done anything. He would have never done anything. Because that's the type of kid he is. He would never have fought. Even though I taught him, you know, go right back out there and deal with it, he would have never done it.
There was a kid, it was like in 7th grade, might have been 8th grade, but it was in the middle school. And there's this kid that kept shoulder checking my older boy every day, I guess. And then one day, Wick decided, yeah, it's enough of that, and just pounded the crap out of that kid. And the teacher had a hard time pulling him off. It's like, and now Witt said that the kid was holding on to him, which is why he couldn't get off of him. But, you know, it's still not a good situation. And the best part was, it was my friend who was the teacher, because I called him up a little bit later, and I was like, anything interesting happened today? He's like, yeah.
I got something for you.
I walk in my room, and like, he's like, my best student is beating the crap out of my worst student. Like, that's because he's your best. I don't know. But whatever. You know, the school wanted to punish both boys, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's the way schools are. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for the acceptable solution where they can't be sued.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like, and you know, like with my boy, when that shit went down, the first thing I asked was who won, you know, and I could swear that I could hear the intake because I had a friend talking because I was working, I was tattooing, and they called me, and I had a good friend of mine be the go-between. And when he repeated what I said, he was like, I can't say that. And I was like, no, that's what I'm saying. Say it. And I could hear her go, You know what I mean? And I was like, who won?
Well, it kind of matters.
And it didn't matter. The point was that they weren't paying attention to shit. It was just a way to fucking get him in trouble. You know what I mean? Oh, he's a bigger kid, so he must be the bully. Well, that's not true. He's a big softie. He's a big teddy bear, right? So if he gets into a fight, this big teddy bear, who wouldn't really ever get into a fight, you know, like start a fight.
Well, plus, I mean,
Then
there's a thing called a Napoleon complex for a reason. You know, you get these little guys that want to run their mouth all the time, and then, you know, they act like
the core of
or
it
they'll
was
push
this
you.
little guy was jealous of him because he wanted his girlfriend. That was the core of it. But like I knew damn well he wasn't gonna start a fight. He'd have to have a damn good reason. You know what I mean? So when I asked them, it's a shock value thing, but I knew that they weren't going to be up and up with me. They didn't tell me what the kid was throwing rocks at him. They didn't tell me that he was with his girlfriend and the kid was talking shit and throwing rocks at them, right?
Right.
It was only, oh, your son that was bigger than this other kid started a fight. Well, that other kid's very much smaller, very much faster, and throwing rocks at him. Yeah, that's not starting a fight. And Logan's not a fast kid either. Like I said, he was over 300 pounds. So how much do you think that he did? He fucking swung at the kid. Actually, what he did to get in that big fight was he kicked at the kid one time. So like it was just total bullshit. So I just knew it was. So I knew asking them the way that I asked them was going to befuddle them because they weren't being on the up and up. I love it. They just try to blame people. And like the point of that part of the story though was that I stick by my kid. And you can say whatever the fuck you want to, but if my kid, I know my kids. If my kid's fighting, he didn't have a choice. You know, someone's messing with him, and I'm not gonna throw him to the wolves and fucking be all over. Oh, you're starting trouble and you're being a troublemaker and all that shit. I had that happen to me when I was a kid. I had nobody stand up for me. I'd be damned if I'm not gonna stand up for my kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Trust me, I'm going through it right now.
I tell my kids to stand up for themselves, but they, you don't fuck with my kids, I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. I'll shoot you. I will go to prison. I don't care. There's a good reason for me being in prison. I will kill you if you fuck with my kids.
Uh-oh. I see feet.
What's that?
Well, these curtains block the view, so I can't see the rest of my room, which is kind of the point, so that the light doesn't reach the rest of the room. But I could feel my wife walking by, and I saw her feet, so I'm guessing she's going to bed.
Oh, you saw feet?
Yeah, I saw feet.
Have you ever seen Big Hero 6?
Yeah.
So, you know those nanobots that he created?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I think about this suit, only as like shifting plates instead of nanobots.
That's cool.
No, I'm just, kind of giving you a little bit of input in case you want to incorporate it into what you're doing.
Okay. I mean, I was kind of, part of me kind of
if you don't like it, then,
Oh, no, it's fine.
I'll just take the character and use it for something else.
Some of this stuff, it's kind of interesting and fun because some of it I'm like, I'll see whatever Rich comes up with. Like I know the function that has to happen, but exactly how it works, part of it I'm like, Rich will figure, whatever Rich draws, we'll make it work.
And
but,
and I'm kind of the same way. Like I don't need the scientific explanation. I just need to know what it does. You know?
Did you ever see The Fifth Element?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you know when they
One
wrap
of
her
the
up
science
in
fiction movies that Amanda likes. So
okay, well you know how when they reconstruct the girls from that severed limb, and then they basically that bandage outfit that she wore when she was first recreated, I guess.
yeah.
And it kind of shows the bandages going up and over to wrap around her. I kind of imagined that in reverse, and they kind of opened up. But it doesn't. I don't care as long as we know that she can hold stuff in her body, and wrap it around. Oh, Rich is demonetized now. That's true. We are.
Huh?
Joe said you're now demonetized.
For what
Which is
time?
Oh, because you said you would kill somebody.
Oh yeah. I guess that's the reason. But you know what? Demonetize me. You fuck with my kids. You ain't gonna be worried about monetization for long.
My wife likes to say she will smile in her mugshot.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll smile in my mugshot. I don't know if I'll survive the day out, but I'm gonna take some fuckers with me.
But yeah, so
Because my guns will come out of the river. True story. Someone did fuck with my daughter.
yeah,
Someone
you told me about that.
And
My situation with the school is nowhere near that category. Just throwing that out there. I am not in any way saying that I would. I mean, it'd be different. I mean, if what happened, yeah, there are cases. I can see that extreme, but
I guess I'm just saying I'm very, very protective over my kids. I won't let my kids have to defend themselves if I'm around by themselves,
right.
Because none of my kids are bad like that. They're kids. They're kids bad, like stupid kids sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, I'd stand by any one of them. If my daughter is telling me someone's messing with her, if my son's telling me someone's messing with him, the first person I believe is them. You know what I mean? Like, I know them, and there are certain things that I would believe they are capable of doing.
Right.
So I'm not totally ignorant, but they wouldn't do something really evil and then expect me to back it up, because they wouldn't do something very evil. As a kid, I never had the benefit of the doubt. Everything that ever I was accused of, seemed like everybody was backing them up, and never me. So I won't let my kids deal with that. I won't let my kids be there. I can be wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong by them.
I always go back with when it's my kids. I trust them, but I verify. So, it's just one of those things where.
Okay, so you're gonna know. I'm not saying don't do that, but what I'm saying is, your kids. You know enough of your kids that when you hear something, it either sounds like something that they would do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it sounds like that's complete bullshit. They would never do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's very many times a parent's going to go, like, with the exception of maybe Jeffrey Dahmer or some shit like that. But
Yeah, I just,
you know your kids, if you're close to your kids at all.
as someone who works with other people's children, I see a lot of parents though that think they know their kids, and it's like, yeah, you don't really know your kids.
Yeah.
So
I know them enough to know what would be other bullshit and what would be plausible.
well, the other thing is you also get parents who think that their children are nothing but absolute little, rays of sunshine. And
Yeah,
never-
right.
I'm
I
like,
know better than that, but I
I mean,
still defend them even though they're not absolute rays of sunshine.
yeah, I got accosted by a woman at a swim meet because she thought I was bullying her grandson. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, A, the kid was never in trouble in my room, ever. B, I felt like I was trying to watch out for the kid, if nothing else. Like, yeah, I warned him because I thought he was doing something stupid. And I didn't want him to get hurt. But somehow that got twisted into I was bullying her grandson. And I'm just like, are you hearing what you're like, really? That's what you think? That's the first go-to is you're being bullied? Okay, you're a delusional lady, but and then
I wasn't, but now I'm going to show you what it is.
no, I
was tattooing somebody one time. I'm not going to mention any names, even though I don't remember the name. But it was a woman, and every time I'd spray the green soap on, she'd go, "Don't spray that alcohol on me. Ow, that hurts. Don't spray the alcohol on me." And I would be like, "No, this is green soap. It's not alcohol," right?
okay.
About the 5th time she did that, I grabbed the alcohol. And I loaded it on that tattoo. Like, that's fucking alcohol. Some people just need to have fucking alcohol loaded on their tattoo to know the difference between being mean and being nice.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, the kid's mom was like, I talked to his mom and his dad. They were both cool, and in the long run, the grandmother is just trying to protect her grandchild.
Yeah, I get it.
It comes from a good place. It's just kind of misguided sometimes, but oh well.
Yeah, I fully admit that I might be that kind of grandparent. Because, yeah, I'm gonna protect them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna protect them. I don't care. Because there ain't much in this life. All the stuff that we think about don't mean shit when it comes to the end of life. When it comes to the end of life, I want to know that I protected my kids.
Yeah.
That I did what was right by my friends and the people that were around me, and that I helped as many people that I could help. You know what I mean? Those are the important things for me. Like, all of us have different important things, I'm sure. Like, I'm definitely not saying those need to be the important things for anybody else, but when it comes to my kids, my family is the number one thing on this earth. Like, I'll give up my tattoos, the tattoo shop, my money, my cars, my art. I don't give a shit. Everything is all expendable when it comes to my kids, my family.
Right.
So they get the benefit of the doubt because they're that important. And, the benefit of the doubt don't mean that I'm stupid.
We can trust.
And that I, won't see the truth for the truth. Because if I feel like I've been lied to and I've been fighting for them for nothing, then yeah, I'm going to go off on them.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I tell my boys all the time, like, I will go to bat for you 100%, but don't you dare make me go to bat for you on a lie.
Yeah, it's like my kids get my first loyalty until they prove that they don't deserve that loyalty.
Yeah.
And they've never proved it, and they've never been in a place. Like I said, my kids are good kids. Like the worst things that they've ever done, they've done to me. So
Well,
stole
that's
my alcohol or some stupid shit like that kids do.
yeah.
But they've never done anything seriously to hurt somebody else. They've never been thieves. They've never been, they've always been. All my kids really are helpful kids. They want to help people. So I really can't complain about that. But that's the reason I back them up so much, or the reason that I have so much faith in them, is because they've shown me that they deserve that. But even if they didn't show me they deserve that, they'd get that, and they'd have to prove that they didn't deserve it. Hey, Joe, I'm going to send this to you to ink, okay?
I don't think you're going to ink that tonight, my friend. Sorry.
What's that?
I don't think you're inking that tonight.
Oh, no, I'm not even going to try to ink this tonight. I'm just trying to get it established.
Okay.
I'm erasing the outer parts of the outline that I don't need as an outline. Let me go in closer.
Uh-oh. Rich, you're not connected. Man, I hope your power did not go out again. Okay, there you are. Almost there. Apparently we're having technical difficulties again. There we go. I'll just switch that. There we go. Is your microphone on, Rich? Oh.
We did it again.
Yeah.
That's really weird because I focused in close and that's what happened. I'm going to back off. It's talking about my browser's losing connection, and that's not a good thing. I'm probably going to have to look for viruses or some shit.
We were talking about the Clintons. That was good, too.
Not really. We just kind of grazed the subject. It's already been out a long time. Yeah. Long time. I hope I don't lose my connection again. Like I said last time, I've finally gotten to a place where I'm, feeling like I'm getting some progress done with this. And that's all of a sudden when we lost everything. Oh yeah, I got some progress done. You're not supposed to get any progress done. Kablam.
Well, I don't know if you have to do everything on stream. As long as we see.
That's true, but I don't know. I did kind of start sketching this in and change, I think, the length of this leg because it was a little bit longer. It was unnaturally a little bit longer. I did kind of do that roughly, but
Joe, yeah, I heard something about P. Diddy getting on a plane. I didn't care. I was like, yeah, whatever, it's P. Diddy.
I didn't hear
I didn't
anything
really-
about it because I don't listen to anything about P. Diddy.
Well, I mentioned he said once that he was Jay Gatsby. He said, I am Gatsby. That's what he said. Which I've always thought was interesting. That because I got high schoolers that think there's no point in reading The Great Gatsby. I'm like, it's enough of a reference that here is a guy nearly 100 years later, saying that he is that character. I mean, it's just that's about the only thing I really care about P. Diddy.
I usually get huge attaboys when I get a pop culture reference. Amanda's all like, "Ooh, you get points. You know, it was a pop culture reference." And often I'm really like, "It was?" I can be old. There's no excuse for older abuse.
So here's another question about your process.
Uh-oh.
No, this one is hypothetical, actually.
Oh, well, because it came just after I said there's no excuse for elder abuse, and I was like, well, there's a lot of processes that elders have.
Okay, so like right now you're designing a character. Like you are learning what she's going to look like and how she kind of fits together and all that stuff.
Well, when I said I was committing, that's what it is that like I'm saying yes, this is the way it's going to be here. This is the way it's going to be there. So
right.
The overall process was a learning process, but at this point, I've learned what I need to know. I've decided what's going to be okay to be black or black and shiny or whatever, versus what needs to have dimensionality to it or shape to the object. Anyway,
so will that mean eventually, maybe not right away, but eventually it'll be faster to draw the character because you know the character?
Well, yeah, it'll be a lot faster to draw the character if I know what she looks like.
That's kind of what I thought, but I just...
Namely, that one of the things that really makes it hard, and I'm sure most sequential artists or most even illustrators, it's hard until you find out what they're doing. I mean, it's harder until you find out what they're doing, because not only trying to think of somebody and whatever, putting them in a pose that looks like they're doing something or doing something interesting, and something that you can define. Like, part of the profile of Spider-Man, when you think of Spider-Man, is his hunched over spider-like pose, right?
Okay.
Sticking to a wall. He's hunched over, sticking to a wall, hunched over, casting a web. There are things about the silhouette of that character
Yeah.
that you think of that character doing. And I was talking about this in the David Finch fan server. See, I'm gonna give a nod to the David Finch fan server a while ago, because one of the contests, one of the weekly challenges that I posed was to draw Batman in Spider-Man's pose, because Batman's always got the same pose. He's standing on a gargoyle and brooding over the city, or holding this cape in a fist and brooding over the city. But it's always some kind of brooding over the city.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, you can't really see his face, so it's all about the activity of the character, the silhouette.
Well, if you think about
it looks like he's a spider poised to jump, or it looks like he's a spider hanging from a web, right?
Well,
like,
just think about those, like Batman swinging from his rope versus Spider-Man swinging from his web. Like, there's a very distinct, he's Spider-Man reaches between his feet. It holds on to the rope.
Right.
Batman is more like this.
Right. Batman is swinging from a rope.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man is spinning the web.
Yeah.
So
it definitely changed different silhouettes.
Right. They're different silhouettes, but they're entirely intended to be so that when you see them, your mind goes right to that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's probably an aspect that you didn't think of, the design potential, but that's part of the designing too, is how is she going to be? Like, see, she's got one hand in the fist, but the other hand's out and it's spread. And I wanted the finger spread particularly because we're talking about having something inside of there.
Right.
So, like, how are we representing this body type with who the character is, right? Like, and now we're not even sure. Like, I thought it was a blood runner, but now I don't know if it's a blood runner or not, or maybe it's a rogue blood runner or what. But this is what I was thinking for the blood runners, is they would all have this kind of uniform, like a still suit, if you will, except for it's not a suit, it's a mechanical body.
Oh, I wanted the blood runners to be more discreet. Like, you shouldn't be able to know.
Remember, originally they're wearing cloaks, so they're driving transports. So what's discreet? Like, the body can close up; it's just going to be armor. Like, you know what I mean? They can change their faces. Seems to be that's a common thread right now.
Okay.
The ability to change their face or appearance, and I'm not talking about just blood runners. I'm talking about in the world that we have kind of created. There's different reasons for it, but they have that similarity.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to that. It's just an identifiable similarity. So that's another thing. If you look at the silhouette, the only thing that's not broken up into those kinds of lines is the face.
Yeah. I don't know how to think about it. Well, that's a lot of stuff. I think it's better to think about it, see how it incorporates. Because when you come up with a different idea, it's easy to just go, that's not what I was thinking, and move on. But I think it's a better idea to go around and say, I'll think about that.
In the chat, dude.
No, I did. No offense, Joe. I just didn't think the Bill Clinton on the plane thing was as funny. I mean, maybe it's because it's in chat, but I was just like, because then I wasn't sure if it was a joke or not. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about the situation.
It's difficult to get a joke across in the chat. It's hard to do it when it's written.
Yeah.
Jokes are hard to interpret read.
Yeah. But it's one of those things I was like, I don't know if that's real information or a joke. So therefore, I'm just going to let it be because I don't want to. There's a lot of stuff, I don't know, in my opinion, About anything you see in the news, you should wait at least 3 days before making a comment on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like-
Larry Correa was saying today, like, he woke up and everybody on the internet's boat experts.
Yeah.
That usually happens with a shooting. Like, you wake up and everybody knows who the shooter was or the motivation behind the shooter before they even really know who the shooter is.
Yeah.
Like, and
It's better to
he
wait.
always says, wait 3 days, because if you don't, it's going to change on you.
Well, I did not know that's what he said, but I'm going to say I agree. Because,
Well, I guess that's what reminded me that he says that, is that you had said that. So,
well,
Yeah.
I remember I don't know if you remember the Covington kids that were supposedly being, mean and evil, and they weren't. And, everyone came out right away, and I was like,
is that the kid with the MAGA hat and the Native American that was
yeah.
in his face?
I was like, I
Yeah.
bet you there's more to this story than what we're being told yet. We should probably wait.
Well, I knew that because the first time I saw that, I saw it happen. So, like, I knew what was happening as it was happening.
Joe, I haven't seen the video of the guy eating the human leg in California, but I did see it in the news. Like, I read about it.
Man, you watched some fucked up shit, Joe.
It was in the news.
Yeah, you're gonna watch that video?
Well, no, I'm not.
That video was on the news?
No. I'm saying I learned about it, and I was like, I don't need to see that.
Oh yeah, and that's I was just saying, like, he's asking if we saw the video. I'm like, you watched some fucked up shit.
Yeah, now he's saying there's a video of it. So that's cool. I don't need to see that. But there are certain things you
Yeah, I did my time with that with the Faces of Death movies in the early '80s.
yeah. And then
I think it
I
was
did the
like
same
one or
thing.
two, and that was enough for me.
That's like, so the Mission Impossible film with Henry Cavill in it.
The last
There's-
one.
Is it the last one? Then I guess it's the one before that.
No, the part one. Yeah.
No. Not the part one. The one that's
Well, that
before
was
the
the
part
Henry Cavill one because he kills Henry Cavill at the end while they're trying to stop those bombs from going off.
I don't think you're right on that.
Well, I just watched them all. Remember?
Okay.
The very last one is when he runs into his ex-wife and her new husband, and he's with that English one, and they released the guy that they busted in the one before that. Was it?
Yeah, I hate to tell you this, but you're thinking of 6, not 7. Yeah, you're thinking of Mission Impossible Fallout, which is the 6th one, and the latest one is the 7th one.
Yeah, but that's one just out in theaters, right?
Yeah, okay.
So the
So-
part one is 6.
No, part 1 is 7. Mission Impossible 6 is Fallout, and that's the one with Henry Cavill. And Mission Impossible 7, which is the part 1, the one with the big, huge jump off the bike and everything, and that's the one that came out last year. But Mission Impossible, I'm going to forget what my point was. God damn it. You got me confused. Yeah, you're really
You were
thinking about...
talking about the Henry Cavill one.
Yeah? But now I don't remember what I was talking about. I suppose I could rewind the video, I could watch it, then I would remember. But you
Nope,
know what?
Because you only brought up the fact that it was the Henry Cavill one, and then we went off on.
Yeah, I don't remember
A tangent.
what I was going to say. Oh well, must not have been that important. We were talking about eating legs. Yeah?
Talking
Oh,
about what?
yeah. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. So in Mission Impossible 6, I think it's Mission Impossible 6, there was a scene where he's jumping from one building to a next, and then he runs off, like he barely makes it, and then he kind of limps off camera. Tom Cruise does. And I watched the video of what happened, because he broke his foot or his ankle on the jump and walked it off so he could have the shot. But I saw that once and I thought, oh, I don't ever need to see that again. No. But that is some of those things.
Fucking Jackie Chan did that shit in Super Cop. Matter of fact, Jackie Chan did that shit in every movie he's ever been in because he did his own stunts.
Yeah.
He literally jumped across from one building to a like fire escape.
Yeah.
And landed and broke his ankle and finished the scene.
Again, that's dedication I don't have.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's dedication to your art. I mean,
I suppose. I just seeing that kind of video, because you know that those videos go out. I'm just like, nah. Or like, you see some of the MMA fighters break their own legs.
Oh, Anderson Silva's leg break, that was fucking vicious.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that. It's gross.
That was a fucking rough one right there.
Like, I understand the appeal or the draw, but at the same time, I'm like, I guess I'm old enough to just know, yeah, I don't really want to see that.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't watch a cannibal. That's not something I'm into wanting to watch.
Although I saw an amazing meme today. It had a picture of some guys and a picture of an English breakfast, and it said, "Look, an English breakfast." And then it had below it, it was comparing it, and it had two guys looking at each other, and it says, "Look, a Haitian breakfast." And I thought, oh.
That's like my favorite one-liner joke.
Okay.
Two cannibals are eating a clown.
Oh, yeah.
One looks at the other and says, "Does this taste funny to you?"
Yeah.
So, in the spirit of getting demonetized, like, so I was looking up the song "How Will I Laugh Tomorrow" by Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking it up on YouTube, and you would think, because I actually wrote "How Will I Laugh Tomorrow" by Suicidal Tendencies, that it would, find the video for me. Instead, it gives me all these helpful, help suicide hotline, all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? How do you search a song by somebody that's named after something that's unpopular today? Why don't this warning pop up when I look up Anthrax songs?
That's a good question. That actually brings us back full circle. Back to that anthology where it's got to be about lyrics from a heavy metal song, supposedly. Because
did you link that in Slack?
No, not that one. I can. It doesn't pay that well. It's only like $25 for a story.
Well, I just want to look and see what it's about.
Okay, they actually have several submission calls, so I'll put it in Slack. In fact, actually, hold on a second. I will.
And yeah, you're right. You're probably right that I wouldn't be, submitting anything for $25. But
right, I just thought it sounded fun, and I was like, well,
sometimes it's the point of it. Oh, it's a heavy metal thing.
Right. So
I'm already contracted to be writing a story right now, and I'm like,
So I'm going to do two things, unless you tell me not to. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link their calls for submission in the comments, if that's okay with you.
Sure, no, that's fine. That's what we're about, helping everybody.
So
And
that's open.
This might help young writers, find a venue where they can submit something that they wouldn't otherwise, or would otherwise be afraid to.
So there are at least four things that they're accepting submissions on. One of which really kind of made me laugh. It's called "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" Crime fiction inspired by the songs of Boy George and Culture Club. Kind of made me chuckle. And then they have one, "A Killing at the Copa," crime fiction inspired by the songs of Barry Manilow. And then we have "Close My Eyes Forever," crime fiction inspired by heavy metal hits. Click here. And then there's "Santa Rage," 12 stories of murder and mayhem. But I'll click there, and then, if you don't mind, I'm going to share the screen real fast.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm just kind of noodling around for the last of this because we're almost at our stopping point, and
Right.
there's really not much more to do that I can start without having to, stop in the middle of.
All right. So there are the submission guidelines.
I can't see
Ozzy
it.
Osbourne. Oh,
Hold on, I'm gonna have to enlarge it.
okay.
All right.
So Ozzy Osbourne, Lita Ford, Metallica, Megadeth, Kiss, and many heavy metal bands have put their stamp on the music industry.
Oh,
Serious guitar
Ozzy's gonna
riffs.
get pissed. Ozzy hates when people call him fucking metal.
Oh, he does?
Oh yeah, he hates to be called heavy metal.
Oh,
He's rock. He's rock and roll.
okay.
Hey, that's what he said. He literally had a shit fit about somebody calling him metal, which is ironic because everybody looks up to him as metal.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
But anyway,
It's
so
kind of like, who was it? No, not Carl Sagan. Crap. The dude that was Sue Happy. Terminator.
yeah, I know who you're talking about, but
Why can't I ever remember his name?
if you give me a second, I'll just look it up again.
Starts with E,
Elmore
right?
Leonard.
No, Elmore Leonard was
I wasn't so happy.
Justified.
Yeah.
Harlan
Ellison.
Ellison, that's right. Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
He has walked off of TV shows. He walked off of like Letterman and stuff like that for people calling him a sci-fi writer.
Well, in our country, you don't want to be
Sci-fi
ghettoized
writer, I'm
that
a
way.
fiction writer. Okay. Sci-fi.
Well, the Americans have this weird thing. We it's marketing, I suppose, but the British don't seem to do it as much. That's why you can get people, like Orson Welles and stuff that did different things. They weren't classified necessarily as one type of writer, but American writers, you kind of get.
Orson Welles?
No, not Orson Welles.
H.G. Wells?
Yeah. And there are several of them, but you can see where
You gotta
the
remove that other screen.
oh yeah, but you can see where the I hope that's the right one. In America, like once you get in a category, that's where they tend to want to push you. even for like Stephen King has written, I would say, just about every single genre possible, and he's still called up, the master of horror. It's like, okay, sure.
No, I don't know. There's definitely British writers, or I don't know, writers in the UK who are specifically really one thing. Like they have genre fiction too. They
Right.
sell a hell of a lot more historical fiction, but that's still a genre. They still sell a hell of a lot more thriller fiction, spy thriller fiction.
But I think you can maneuver around the different classifications easier there than you can here. That's all I'm saying.
So I know of one author in particular that is a known historical fiction writer, and when he started writing thrillers, they just gave him a pseudonym.
Yeah, that's generally the easiest way of handling it.
Well, yeah, but that's everywhere. That's America too. There's a lot of writers that you wouldn't probably even write. Gene Kuntz wrote like all kinds of steamy romance, sex novels, and shit like that. He won't admit to whose name he published them under, but it's not that you are stuck in a genre, but I think it's the other way around. If you start out in a genre, you get known for a genre, and it's absolute marketing because you're a name brand. David Farland talks about that a lot. You're creating a name brand. So, for instance, Neil Gaiman's always going to be a fantasist, whether or not he's writing a fantasy. Chuck Palahniuk. It doesn't matter if he writes a fantasy or if he writes science fiction. He's always going to be considered a mainstream fiction writer because he did Fight Club and he did that kind of fiction. Same thing with Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton did a lot of actual sci-fi stuff where it was based on hard sci-fi because he would literally go back to his college, his alma mater, and pick up new medical, technical, scientific discoveries and work with them there. But he started off writing such mainstream work that he's associated with just mainstream fiction. Because not only did he write Jurassic Park, he wrote ER. You know? So it's all over the place. He published movies, Coma and stuff like that. And Westworld's sci-fi. You would think that would earn the sci-fi classification, right? But it didn't. Right. And then sometimes it transcends. Like you're saying, Stephen King, they're always master of horror, master of horror. They do say master of horror, but in all the bookstores that I look in, he's just in named regular fiction. He's not actually in the horror section. He's not actually in the sci-fi section. He's just in mainstream fiction. So he's right next to James Clavell, Shogun or whatever. It's, So it's a little bit different. I think that in England and the British writers, I think that they intentionally use genre. You know what I mean? It's an intent when they're writing a certain genre, so it's okay to go across the lines. But I think you have a stigma no matter where you're at of whatever you start writing. And I think Stephen King really tried to outlive that stigma, because I remember reading. Oh, we were talking about reading The Dark Half. The Dark Half was pretty far into his catalog when it was written, right?
Right.
It wasn't like first or second book. It was a few 10, 20 books, something like that, under his belt. And he was talking about that writer in Maine that's foul-mouthed and only write, and he was referring to himself without saying it, but you could tell that he was trying to outlive his reputation that he earned from writing horror. And the thing is that he shouldn't have, because it's not an insult when you take a classification like horror and turn it into mainstream. When he started writing horror, and this is something I'm crediting him with, when he started writing horror, there was not very many people that were considered horror writers that were making even hardbacks. They weren't producing hardbacks because they weren't selling enough. So horror was a very extremely limited genre, and it was thought of as a lesser genre, like they do sometimes with they do sometimes with speculative fiction. They consider it kind of a lesser genre, not so much anymore, because I think it's because it's become more mainstream, more popular. But there was a time when there was a stigma with writing any kind of speculative fiction. But horror in particular, when Stephen King made horror big, it was Stephen King, Dean Koontz, John Saul, and Robert McCammon. Those were the big names. Once in a while, you'd see like a Bentley who did, was it Jaws?
Oh, I don't know.
And there was like a whole series of marine monster type books that he did. Or I might be mixing Benchley up with Bentley, like Peter Benchley, I think. This is all from memory, so excuse me if it's not even close. But like that was the alternative to Stephen King. Like Stephen King was speculative fiction with a horror bent. Dean Koontz was speculative fiction or thriller fiction with a horror bent. Robert R. McCammon was basically like Stephen King and Dean Koontz, where you were doing speculative fiction with a horror bent, but he did Boy's Life, which was much more of a tribute to Harper Lee than real true horror. So it was an underlying quest of finding this killer that this kid and his dad saw on their milk route, before everything went down that summer. So it's a coming of age story, and during the coming of age in Alabama and in the 50s, it was also kind of a murder mystery too. So, but for the most part, what he was writing was horror. Stinger was about an alien. Swan Song was basically his The Stand. Yeah, he had a house near me too. I'm in Maine. Anyway, so John Saul wrote the same type of horror fiction. It was all social horror fiction, actually. It was strangers moving to a small town and discovering a small town secret that killed outsiders, and that was pretty much his trope. That was pretty much his theme. But he sold like over 30 books before he quit, and he made enough to stop writing. When Stephen King did The Green Mile, John Saul did the Blackstone Chronicles, which basically involved all of his other characters that hadn't been resolved, and kind of resolved them.
That's nice of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's good fiction. But this is omniscient, I guess. We would probably call it head hopping nowadays, but it was really good omniscient for those days, and that was the 80s. So fiction has changed over time. But I guess what I'm getting at is that Stephen King put horror on the map. Like, these guys benefited from Stephen King. Like John Saul, like, I'm sure his stuff would have sold as thrillers, but it wouldn't have been devoured by a ready audience until Stephen King made a ready audience. Dean Koontz was writing thrillers and science fiction and little books until Stephen King pretty much cracked open horror for everybody. Then he wrote Whispers, which was a first personal story, but it was a horror story. And then he was like, it wasn't his first best-selling one, but it, became a bestseller over time. But before that, like, who was writing horror? Nobody was writing horror. Like, now, even nowadays, there's horror writers. Jonathan Mayberry, he's a pretty well-known horror writer. Greg Keane, I think. Greg Keane? It's something Keane. I don't read horror anymore, but because a lot of it's gone the way of splatterpunk, and I don't want to read a lot of blood and guts and whatever. That's not horror for me. It doesn't affect me. But yeah, like, these guys wouldn't be making a living. They wouldn't be able to hold their head up without Stephen King. So Stephen King shouldn't be ashamed of it. And he actually acted like he was ashamed of it because he wasn't considered a mainstream writer. Well, he forced them to look at him as a different kind of writer. And while he may not be considered a literary writer, his stuff is all over the place. They've made 2 and 3 versions of movies of his stuff. So, that says something. Yeah, we covered that. You missed it. Yeah, Stephen King is from Maine. He's from Bangor.
Yep.
But he has a place in Florida. He has a place in Colorado. He claims he still pays Maine state taxes, which I find hard to believe, because in Maine, if you make $1 million, they get half.
Jeez.
Yeah, right? And that's not even including what the government takes out of it. So what are you left with if Maine takes half of that $1 million?
Yeah.
Of course, this is from something he said in the back of a book. I've never made $1 million, so I couldn't tell. But that I know that in Florida it's different, and if in Tennessee it's different. You don't have the same state taxes. In Florida, you don't have to have insurance as long as you can walk in and pay $10,000 into the driver's bureau.
Huh.
I know that because I used to live there, and I was like, wow, really? Don't tell me they're catering to the rich or anything.
Well, why wouldn't you just pay? I mean, the insurance is cheaper. It's got to be cheaper than $10,000.
I don't know. I don't think so. Insurance is a fucking scam, dude. Think about it. You pay in insurance for how long before you end up collecting, and then almost every single time the first thing they do is deny you, right?
Yep.
So you have to fight to get it after paying into it for years. So the insurance payment may be cheaper than $10,000 a year, but like you only have to pay the $10,000 once. I don't know if it's gone up by now, by the way. But you only have to pay that once, and you're having to pay insurance for the rest of your life in the insurance states, right? But I think, you know, there's no fault in states where you don't have to have insurance because you're paying for your own damages, but
Oh,
crazy stuff.
yeah.
I think if I was to make more than $1 million one time and the state took half and I paid the taxes out and I was left with like a third of what I fucking made or less, then I'd take that money and move to a state that didn't do that. And,
I agree.
you know, that's Stephen King lives in a state that don't do that. So, you know, he says he pays the main taxes. I don't know. Like,
He probably pays property taxes.
yeah, well, if
But
he claims residency, he still has to pay.
That's true.
If he claims partial residency, he has to pay for what time he's here. So it's just, I don't know, it's fucked up.
Anyway,
You still
So
on
you-
vacation this week?
yeah.
You watched that House of Flying Daggers yet?
No? I have access to them.
Huh?
I did make sure I had access.
You had what?
I had access to it.
Oh, access.
Yeah. Maybe I'll watch that tomorrow. I don't know. Depends on if I go to Indianapolis or not.
I hope you do, and more than that, I hope you enjoyed as much as me and Kate did. Like, Amanda doesn't usually enjoy those types of movies, but she even did because the initial scenes where it's really colorful and really almost choreographed.
Choreographed.
For effect. The colors in that movie and the seasons in that movie play a part. They are characters. They have their own they have their own parts of the story. And if you watch them, like, spring and summer and fall pass very quickly. You know what I mean? Like, there's no length for all that stuff. It's just whatever the film needs. And actually, it seems like in the middle of summer there's a springtime. But the colors are brilliant colors. And I think it absolutely plays part of the storytelling. And, you know, it's got character actors that I like and that you recognize from a lot of these movies. One of my favorite more modern Chinese movies is Shaolin, and the main actor in Shaolin, the main character, Andy Lau, he's in that. But both of the main characters, most of the main guys in that movie are stars, and the woman is a star. So you know what I mean? Like the two main women that you see in those movies are in that movie are recognizable stars too. So, but it's really well done all in all. And then the same director that did that did a Netflix movie called Shadow, and it's muted colors. Like, he literally filmed it like it's not black and white, but it's very dimmed colors, so it's almost black and white, and it's very dimmed down, almost noir. No, we're talking about House of Flying Daggers. I have never heard of that movie, and that's probably not something that would make me want to watch it.
Oh, that just came out. And it's as bad as anything you might possibly think of.
Well, I would imagine that already, just from the title. Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah.
The Tarantino movie?
Yeah.
You know Bruce Lee's daughter's pissed over that movie?
Oh, well.
Well, because he misrepresented Bruce Lee, and intentionally so, and lied about it, and doubled down on it. Brad Pitt actually had them change the end of that fight scene because he was supposed to win. But yeah, that they made Bruce Lee out to be an arrogant prick, and everyone that really knew him in life said, like, that's crap. Like, Bruce Lee knew what he knew. He wasn't afraid to show that. He wasn't afraid to step up. But it's ironic that Quentin Tarantino could basically slam him culturally. You could be talking bad about a non-white person. He said he did research, and all the stuff that he claimed he researched was a lie. Like, the books that he said he read that he got that information from didn't say that in it. And the authors of those books are like, that's bullshit. He didn't read the book. So I never watched that movie. I thought about it. I waffled on it for a little while. Now I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't be happy with seeing him slander Bruce Lee.
Well, you also need to understand that it's not. How do I put this? Well, it's a fake history.
You know, it's based on real stuff, though.
But it's, yeah, but it also takes.
Supposed to be, anyway.
Well, it doesn't claim to be a telling of any real event, but it's inspired by events that actually happened. But it's just like in Inglourious Bastards when they blow up the theater with Hitler in it. Well, that never happened.
Yeah, but that, you know what? Nobody ever tried to play off Inglourious Bastards like it was a fucking real thing.
I don't...
Like it was a fictional account of a real happening. But I don't know. I just, man, the more I learn about his stuff and the more I've seen his stuff, the less I appreciate it. Like, I literally was looking at the no-nos of writing fiction, the stuff that really, really are cheating and violating all kinds of stuff. And then I watched the beginning of The Hateful Eight, and 5 of them were in the beginning, the first fucking 10 minutes. Like, because he can get away with it because he's Quentin Tarantino, but it's all crap. I don't think any of his stories have been really, really strong except for Jackie Brown, and Jackie Brown's based on fucking Elmore Leonard. It's based on Rum Punch from Elmore Leonard. And it's, according to Elmore Leonard, it's the closest movie adaptation of any of his writing. But other than that, like, I wasn't super impressed with Pulp Fiction. I know a lot of people were, but to me it was kind of a bunch of non sequiturs slammed together. And I know it's a MacGuffin, and I know the main thing is the MacGuffin and trying to figure it out, but nobody actually gives you what it was. The current theory is it was a soul in the briefcase. But, and Kill Bill was bullshit too. That was supposed to be a tribute to Bruce Lee, and then it turned out that it wasn't. It was a tribute to Bruce Lee, who was a second-rate copy of Bruce Lee and never wanted to be credited as Bruce Lee after those movies. And Tarantino was all like, he was better than Bruce Lee. Well, he didn't agree. I wasn't impressed with any of them. Kill Bill was a part 1 and part 2, so it was another non sequitur, but you had to wait for the non sequitur. I just don't appreciate, really. Oh yeah, the Mexico movie with vampires, talk about From Dusk Till Dawn. That wasn't super great, but hey, Robert Rodriguez was the co-director, and I'm not down talking Robert Rodriguez. Everybody wanted George Clooney's tattoo, and I never really liked that, but George Clooney is an actor I can't watch him because he has that stupid smile on him and everything. He's dying, the whole ship's going down, like all the people that work for him are gonna die, and he's grinning a stupid grin because he's getting paid $1 million for that scene or whatever. Like, I don't know, I can't. I've never seen a George Clooney movie where he's not wearing that dumb grin.
Well, that's his face. So.
It's not his face, it's that stupid grin.
It's alright.
Maybe it is his face. Maybe I'm just prejudiced against his face.
There you go.
I'm not jealous or anything. I'm like, yeah. It looks like you're amused that everybody's gonna die because you wanted to go on a fishing trip. At least look like you don't want it to happen. Yeah, I think the closest Tarantino movie was, Jackie Brown.
Really? You didn't like Reservoir Dogs?
That's also Robert Rodriguez with him. And I did not like it as much as Desperado.
Okay. All right, Rich, it's almost midnight.
Yeah.
So you got to call that, or at least I'm going to call it. Or I'm going to call me.
2 minutes to midnight. I got to stop because copyright, but hey. Iron Maiden, 2 minutes to midnight. Oh, now it's 1 minute to midnight, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway.
All right, so everyone that watched, thanks for watching. Let us know if you like the content. If you don't like the content, either way. Thanks, Joe, for hanging out, commenting, talking with us.
Always fun.
Yeah, thanks to anybody else who watched, liked, subscribed, whatever. Thanks to Brett for co-hosting.
Thank you
Good
for
night.
co-hosting.
God bless. Much love.
Peace out, guys.